Welcome to tonight's journey. We're stepping into the hidden world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, a Japan caught between the glow of modernization and the shadows of demons lurking in the dark. Imagine the flicker of electric lights in Tokyo's streets, while deep in the mountains, families still cling to charms and shrines for protection. This is a land of contrasts. Trains rumble forward into the future, yet swords remain humanity's only true defense. Whether you're curled up in bed or working late under a single lamp, let these sounds carry you into a world where survival balances on a blade's edge. If you enjoy this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can follow us deeper into the cosmos. Imagine a narrow mountain path, winding between ancient trees draped in mist. Paper lanterns sway gently before forgotten shrines, their light barely holding back the darkness. From far away, the sound of a train echoes, iron wheels carrying a new age into the land. Yet here, beneath the canopy, time feels older than the empire itself. The air is heavy, alive with something unseen, whispers of creatures that linger just beyond sight. This is Taisho-era Japan, where the glow of modern progress cannot fully banish the shadows. And within those shadows, demons wait, patient and hungry. The Taisho era, a clash between old and new. The world of Kimetsu no Yaiba begins in an era of contrasts. Japan in the Taisho period, from 1912 to 1926, was a nation walking two paths at once. On one side, the glow of modernity, trains cutting through valleys, electric lamps brightening streets that once relied on the soft flicker of oil lanterns, and Western suits beginning to replace the folds of traditional kimono. On the other side, vast stretches of countryside where little had changed for centuries, villages tucked between mountains, farmers tending rice fields under the same rhythms of the seasons, and shrines where incense curled into the night sky. It was an age where the future pressed against the past, but never fully replaced it. The cities, especially Tokyo and its Asakusa district, hummed with energy. Neon signs buzzed above theaters, the sound of the phonograph floated through the air, and women in hakama, or even Western dresses, strolled side by side with men in bowler hats. The streets were alive with trade and invention, a kind of restless optimism that came with modern technology. And yet, just a few train stops away, one could step off into a landscape where modernization had barely touched. Dirt paths wound through valleys, families cooked over wood fires, and the silence of the forest felt older than memory. In this world, demons did not vanish with progress. They simply learned to hide better. In crowded districts like Asakusa, they slipped among the throngs of people, wearing human faces until hunger overtook them. A passerby might disappear on the way home, their blood left to stain an alley wall, while newspapers printed the story as a crime or the work of a wild animal. People accepted these explanations because they needed to, because the truth was too terrible to face. Modernity promised safety, order, and control. To admit the existence of demons would be to admit that behind the veneer of progress, humanity was still fragile and powerless. Meanwhile, in the countryside, fear of the unknown never truly left. Villagers whispered about the dangers of traveling after dark. Families passed down charms and prayers to ward off unseen forces. At the edges of fields and in the depths of forests, small Shinto shrines stood as guardians against the incomprehensible. Lanterns were lit, not only for the dead, but also for protection from whatever prowled the night. For these rural communities, superstition was not a relic of the past, it was survival. The Taisho era was, in many ways, the perfect stage for a hidden war between humans and demons. Technology was advancing, but not fast enough to strip away the old fears. Guns and cannons existed, but they could not kill creatures of shadow. Factories and railways expanded, but demons could move just as easily along these new paths as they did through ancient forests. The clash between modernization and tradition created a tension that lingered in every corner, the promise of progress, haunted by the persistence of ancient terror. Imagine a train steaming through the night, its whistle echoing across mountains. Inside, passengers read newspapers, their faces lit by the faint glow of electric lamps. They are proud of their nation's modern achievements. Yet beyond the glass, deep in the woods, glowing eyes watch from the dark. The forest is indifferent to progress. For the demons, modernization means nothing. Blood tastes the same, whether it is taken from a farmer or a city clerk. Humanity believes it is moving forward, but in truth, it walks a narrow path between survival and extinction. This is the essence of the Taisho period, within Kimetsu no Yaiba, an era balanced on the edge of transformation. For ordinary people, it was a time of wonder and uncertainty, of new opportunities and lingering fears. For the Demon Slayer Corps, it was a battlefield stretched across both the new and the old, demanding vigilance in every alley, every shrine, every mountain pass. And for the demons themselves, it was the perfect environment to thrive, hidden in plain sight, preying on a society too eager to believe that the darkness had already been conquered. The Demon Slayer Corps, guardians in the shadows. If the ordinary people of Taisho Japan lived unaware of the true monsters in their midst, then who carried the burden of that knowledge? The answer was the Demon Slayer Corps, an organization as ancient as the demons themselves, yet completely invisible to the world it protected. No government decrees sanctioned them, no headlines acknowledged their existence. They lived and fought in the shadows, nameless protectors waging a war that most of humanity never even knew was happening. The Corps was not born of politics or power, but of necessity. For centuries, when demons prowled the land unchecked, certain families and warriors took it upon themselves to fight back. Over time, these scattered efforts became a secret brotherhood, bound not by law but by duty. By the Taisho era, this hidden army had endured countless battles, adapting to each new age while remaining steadfast in its singular mission, the eradication of demons. At its heart lay the Yubayashiki clan. The leader, known respectfully as Oyakata-sama, bore a hereditary curse that wasted away his body even as it sharpened his insight. His frail figure belied a spirit revered by his warriors. The Yubayashiki family did not command through force, but through wisdom and compassion. They were the guiding star of the Corps, the ones who reminded each swordsman that their sacrifice was not meaningless, but part of a legacy stretching back generations. Even as the family's bloodline grew weaker, their resolve only deepened, binding them more tightly to their mission. The structure of the Corps was both rigid and fluid. At its pinnacle stood the Hashira, the pillars. Each was a master of a breathing style, a warrior who had risen beyond ordinary limits to embody the strength of an entire element: flame, water, wind, stone, thunder. The Hashira bore these mantles not as titles of pride, but as burdens of responsibility. Beneath them stretched the ranks of demon slayers, from Mizunoto, the lowest grade, up to Kino. Every slayer was measured not only by skill, but by survival. To rise through the ranks was to prove again and again that one could face the abyss and return alive. Entry into this hidden world was never simple. Recruits, often orphans or volunteers driven by tragedy, underwent brutal training under senior slayers. Endless hours of sword drills, stamina exercises, and mental conditioning carved away weakness. But even training was not enough. To truly join, one had to face the final selection, a trial on Mount Fujikasan, where demons lurked among fields of wisteria. Candidates were released into the mountain, armed only with their wits and their blades. Many never returned. Those who did emerged scarred, hardened, and bound by a vow written in blood. The tools of the Corps were no less unique. Their Nichirin Blades, forged in secret villages from ores that had drunk in sunlight, were the only weapons capable of piercing a demon's immortal flesh. Each blade shifted color according to its wielder, becoming an extension of their soul. Their uniforms, though plain in appearance, were woven to resist claw and fang. Even their messenger crows, Kasugai, each bonded to an individual slayer, were more than birds. They were lifelines, carrying missions and orders across the land, and always, in hidden caches and traps, the scent of wisteria lingered, the flower that demons feared as poison. Yet for all their preparation, the slayers were not invincible. They fought, knowing that each mission might be their last. Their comrades fell often, their names remembered in hushed memorials within the Yaiba estate. There were no medals, no parades, no public gratitude, only silence, and the knowledge that for every demon slain, dozens more lurked in the dark. Imagine walking through Asakusa at night. The city glows with modern brilliance, lamps, signs, and chatter filling the air. To the ordinary eye, it is safe. But a slayer moves silently among the crowd, his crow circling overhead. He is invisible, just another passerby. Yet, in the alleys, his hand rests on the hilt of a Nichirin blade, ready for the moment when the mask of a smiling stranger might peel away to reveal fangs. The people around him laugh, shop, and stroll without fear. They do not know him, they never will, but their lives depend on him. The Demon Slayer Corps is more than an army. It is a ghost story written into history's margins. Its members endure not for recognition, but because someone must stand between humanity and the darkness it refuses to see. In the clash of old traditions and new progress, the Corps remains constant, the silent guardians of a world that cannot acknowledge them, yet could not survive without them. The world of demons, shadows in human skin. If humanity walked forward believing itself safe, then demons were the lie hidden beneath that comfort. They were not simply monsters of folklore, they were real, living among the unsuspecting, feeding when hunger grew unbearable. To the unknowing, a missing traveler was blamed on wolves, a mutilated body on crime. But those who had seen a demon's eyes knew the truth. There were predators in the world, older than any kingdom, stronger than any blade of ordinary steel. All demons shared a single origin. They were the children of one progenitor, Kibutsuji Muzan. Once a sickly man desperate to escape death, he was transformed by an experimental medicine into something beyond human. But his rebirth was corruption. Muzan's body became immortal, regenerating from almost any wound. His blood carried that same curse, and when it was forced into another human, their flesh twisted, their soul hollowed, until they too became demons. From this single being, an endless brood was born. The physiology of a demon was both fascinating and horrifying. They thrived on human blood, their strength multiplying with every life devoured. Their bodies were elastic, shifting shapes at will, claws stretching into blades, jaws unhinging wider than any human skull, skin dissolving into shadow. Their wounds knitted shut almost instantly, making ordinary weapons useless. Only sunlight, the sting of wisteria flowers, or a Nichirin blade could end their existence. For this reason, demons hunted at night, slinking through forests, alleys, and villages when the world was most vulnerable. Yet demons were not mindless. Many retained fragments of their human personalities, their desires warping into monstrous obsessions. A man who once craved beauty might become a demon, feeding only on young women. A child abandoned in hunger could grow into a beast consuming endlessly, trying to fill an emptiness that could never be sated. Their blood demon arts, their supernatural powers, were manifestations of those twisted souls. Flames, illusions, shifting dimensions, grotesque mutations. Each ability was unique, a reflection of who they once were and what they feared most. At the apex of this hierarchy stood Muzan himself, the invisible ruler who moved like a shadow across Japan. To the outside world, he appeared as an ordinary man, sometimes a noble in Western clothes, sometimes a merchant, sometimes a stranger with a soft smile. Beneath those masks lay a terror that no demon dared to defy. Muzan's blood was both gift and curse. He could strengthen his servants with it, or destroy them instantly if they disobeyed. His command was law, enforced by fear. Directly under him were the 12 Kizuki, the Daman moons. They were divided into upper and lower ranks. each bearing the mark of their number in their eyes. The upper moons were immortal nightmares, having survived for centuries, mastering their abilities to grotesque perfection. Their names echoed among slayers like curses, whispered warnings of impossible battles. The lower moons, though still formidable, were expendable, discarded the moment they showed weakness. Together, the Kizuki formed a circle of terror that spread Muzan's influence across the nation. Below them sprawled countless lesser demons. Some lurked in forests, preying on travelers. Others haunted city alleys, blending into the crowds. A few hid in plain sight, shopkeepers, entertainers, even doctors, until the hunger overwhelmed them. What united them all was a single truth: they were once human. Every demon was a reflection of the same weakness: fear of death, hunger for power, desperation to escape suffering. Muzan had twisted humanity's most fragile desires into eternal bondage. Imagine a quiet street in Asakusa. Lanterns burn, laughter spills from restaurants, and rickshaws rattle across the cobblestones. Among the crowd, a pale man pauses beneath a gaslight. His smile is polite, his clothes immaculate. To the eye, he is no different from any other city dweller. But if you look closer, if the light strikes his eyes just so, you will see something inhuman staring back. The moment you notice, it is already too late. In this way, demons are not merely creatures of horror in Kimetsu no Yaiba, they are symbols. They embody humanity's deepest flaws: greed, vanity, hunger, and above all, the refusal to accept mortality. Each demon is a cautionary tale of what happens when the desire to cling to life outweighs the willingness to live it with meaning. Their world is our world, only darker, twisted, and hidden beneath the surface. And as long as humans continue to fear death, Muzan's children will never truly vanish. Philosophy and human fear. The people of Taisho, Japan lived in ignorance, yet their lives were guided by rituals of fear: lanterns at shrines, prayers whispered at night, the careful planting of wisteria. These were gestures against an enemy they could not name. They did not see demons, but they felt the weight of something watching from the dark. To survive, they clung to faith, trusting that charms and kami would protect them. The Demon Slayer Corps carried the opposite burden. They knew the truth in all its brutality, that humanity's safety depended not on prayer, but on blood and steel. Their lives were short, often ending in lonely battles, their deaths unnoticed by the world they saved. Yet even in despair, they embodied a philosophy of sacrifice. To fight demons was to accept mortality, to look death in the face and not flinch. Here lies the core paradox of Kimetsu no Yaiba. Demons sought eternity, terrified of dying. Humans, fragile and fleeting, chose instead to embrace death with honor. It was this acceptance that gave them strength, and so the world itself became a mirror: progress against tradition, faith against fear, mortality against immortality, each reflecting the eternal struggle within the human soul. Thus, the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba emerges not only as a battlefield of blades and shadows, but as a mirror reflecting humanity's timeless struggle between fear, faith, and the fragile courage to face the darkness. Geography and setting. Imagine the Taisho period as a landscape split between two worlds. In the cities, electric lights hum to life, trains rattle across steel tracks, and new Western fashions fill bustling streets. Tokyo glows like a second dawn, its lantern-lit alleys and neon signs, promising safety, progress, and modernity. Yet beyond the reach of those lamps, Japan's mountains and valleys remain shrouded in shadow. Villages cling to tradition, with shrines standing lonely on forest paths and paper lanterns swaying in the night wind. It is here, in the wilderness, that the air grows heavy. The silence of ancient woods is broken only by the creak of bamboo or the cry of an unseen animal. Families huddle inside wooden houses, flames flickering weakly against the dark, while beyond the walls something prowls. To them, modernization is distant, a rumor carried by trains they rarely see. Their reality is older, closer to myth, where talismans of wisteria and whispered prayers at shrines are the last defenses against the unknown. This contrast between Tokyo's dazzling brightness and the forest's eternal gloom forms the geography of Kimetsu no Yaiba, a land split between progress and fear, where the line between man and monster is drawn not on maps, but in shadows. The Taisho era and the space between two worlds. The Taisho era, spanning from 1912 to 1926, was a threshold moment in Japanese history. It was a time when the nation stood with one foot in the past and the other in the future, its identity stretched between centuries-old tradition and the dizzying promise of modernization. In the wake of the Meiji Restoration, Western technology and ideas had swept across the country. Railroads and electric wires stretched like veins across the land, pumping progress into its cities. Factories rose where rice fields once stood. The air of Tokyo and Kyoto carried not just incense from shrines, but the smoke of industry and the sound of train whistles echoing into the night. Yet beyond these growing cities lay a Japan that seemed untouched by time. In the countryside, life moved to rhythms that had not changed for generations. Villagers tilled their fields by hand, children played in the shadow of shrines, and festivals honoring ancestral spirits marked the cycle of the year. Nights in the mountains were illuminated, not by electric light, but by the faint glow of paper lanterns swaying outside wooden homes. The gap between modern and ancient was not only visible, it was palpable, like two overlapping worlds pressed together. This divide created a strange duality. In the cities, people were eager to cast off superstition, convinced that science and progress had banished old fears. Murders and disappearances were chalked up to crime, hunger, or the randomness of fate. In rural villages, however, the old ways remained strong. Families nailed charms to their doors, hung strands of wisteria to repel what could not be seen, and whispered warnings to their children: never walk alone at night, never stray beyond the lantern's glow. For them, modernization was a distant rumor carried on the wind of passing trains. It is within this dual world that Kimetsu no Yaiba unfolds. The Taisho era's geography is not only physical, but spiritual, one Japan basking in the glow of progress, the other steeped in shadow, where myths never died. Demons could walk freely through both spaces. In the cities, they disguised themselves as merchants, entertainers, or strangers in Western suits, hiding hunger behind human smiles. In the countryside, they struck openly, dragging travelers into forests where their screams were swallowed by the night. The Taisho era, then, is not merely a historical setting, it is a stage for contrast. Modernity promises light, safety, and order, while tradition preserves fear, faith, and mystery. And caught between these two worlds are the humans who believe themselves secure, unaware that true danger does not care for electric lamps or train tracks. It waits in the shadows, as ancient as the mountains, and as close as the next breath of night. Tokyo Eglo, yet haunted by demons. If the countryside of Taisho Japan clung to the past, Tokyo embodied the future. By the early 20th century, it was a city alive with restless energy. Streets glimmered with electric lights, brighter than the moon above. Streetcars rattled down avenues lined with shops, theaters, and cafes. Western architecture rose beside temples, creating a skyline of contradictions. In Asakusa, one of Tokyo's busiest districts, neon signs buzzed above bustling crowds, and the scent of food stalls mingled with the sound of phonographs playing imported music. For many, the city was proof that Japan had entered a new age, modern, civilized, invulnerable. But under that brilliance, shadows thrived. Demons were not banished by modernization, they adapted to it. In the anonymity of the crowd, they could wear human masks more easily than ever. A pale figure in a Western suit could pass unnoticed among the evening throngs, his footsteps no different from those of a businessman returning home. A geisha could entertain her patrons, smiling with painted lips, even as hunger gnawed at her veins. The city's promise of progress created the perfect camouflage. Demons could feed and vanish, and newspapers would explain it away as murder, crime, or misfortune. The Demon Slayer Call knew better. For them, Tokyo's lights only made the task more complex. In the countryside, a demon's presence could be traced by patterns of slaughter or the whisper of villagers. In the city, there were no patterns, only chaos. Victims disappeared in alleys where no lanterns reached. Children were lured away in the glow of theaters. Slayers moved silently through Osaka's streets, their eyes sharp, their blades hidden beneath cloaks. To the people around them, they were just eccentric wanderers. But in truth, every step was a patrol, every shadow a potential battlefield. And at the center of it all was Muzan Kibutsuji, the progenitor of all demons. In Tokyo, he walked openly, a man in elegant clothes, a wife and child at his side, blending perfectly into the crowd. No one would suspect that this gentle-looking figure was the monster who had unleashed centuries of terror. Here lay the cruel irony of modernity. Even as humans celebrated their triumphs over nature, their greatest predator lived among them, unseen and untouchable. Tokyo's glow was dazzling, but it was a fragile illusion. Electric lights could not pierce the darkness in every alley, nor could progress shield hearts from ancient fear, for within the capital's brilliance, the shadows of demons stretched longer than ever. Mountains and villages, lands of quiet terror. Beyond the glow of Tokyo and the hum of progress, most of Japan still lay in shadow. The countryside during the Taisho era was a world of forests, rice fields, and mountain passes, where the silence of night pressed heavily on every home. Life here followed ancient rhythms. Farmers rose with the sun, families cooked over wood stoves, and evenings ended with the faint glow of oil lamps or paper lanterns. Yet when darkness fell, unease settled in. Every gust of wind through the trees, every distant howl, carried the weight of something older than memory. Villages clung to tradition as their only defense. Wisteria vines were hung above gates and shrines, believed to ward off unseen evil. Elders whispered to children, never stray from the lantern's glow, never answer voices calling from the woods. These warnings were not quaint superstition, but survival rules, etched into generations of fear. Even so, disappearances were common. A hunter failing to return, a family slaughtered in the night, a child found lifeless on the edge of the forest. For villagers, the explanations were simple: beasts, accidents, fate. But those who had glimpsed the red eyes in the dark knew the truth. Demons roamed freely here. In the countryside, demons had little need for disguise. They struck with primal hunger, descending upon travelers along lonely roads or breaking into farmhouses when the moon was high. Their attacks left villages shaken, too small and powerless to resist. Unlike Tokyo, where crowds and noise offered concealment, the countryside was raw hunting ground. Blood on the snow, claw marks on wood, and screams carried through the valleys were the only reminders of their passing. For the Demon Slayer Call, these villages were both battlefield and refuge. Here, they were welcomed with suspicion and gratitude in equal measure. To some, they were saviors. To others, harbingers of death. The arrival of a swordsman at night meant only one thing: a demon was near. Armed with Nichirin blades, slayers walked through rice fields and mountain paths, patrolling where no government official dared to tread. Yet even their presence could not erase the villagers' fear. After all, for every demon slain, more lurked just beyond the tree line. Picture a wooden farmhouse at dusk. Inside, a family huddles by the hearth, lantern light trembling on the walls. Outside, the wind stirs the bamboo. The mother prays softly, clutching a talisman of wisteria. Then, a scratch at the door, the flame flickers, and the night breathes in. This was the reality of Japan's villages, a fragile life suspended between light and shadow, where the line between safety and death was as thin as a paper door. Symbolic locations of a hidden war. The geography of Kimetsu no Yaiba is more than landscapes. It is a map of symbols. each place carrying the weight of history, sacrifice, or terror. These locations are not just backdrops for battles, they are living mirrors of the struggle between light and darkness. The Ubuyashiki Estate, hidden deep within forests draped in wisteria, the Ubuyashiki Estate stands in silence. To ordinary eyes, it would appear as nothing more than an old manor, surrounded by flowers. But the flowers are not for beauty, they are a shield, their scent deadly to demons. Within its walls, generations of the Ubuyashiki family have guided the demon slayer call. The head of the clan, fragile in body but unshakable in spirit, resides here, his voice soft yet commanding. The estate is not a place of triumph, but of quiet grief. It is where fallen slayers are mourned, strategies are whispered, and faith in a cause greater than any single life is renewed. Swordsmith Village, far from cities and hidden from all but the most trusted, lies the Swordsmith Village. It is a place few outsiders ever see, a settlement veiled by mountains and guarded with secrecy. Here the clang of hammer on steel echoes through the night as master smiths forge Nichirin blades, the only weapons capable of cutting through demonic flesh. The village itself is modest, its houses simple, but the furnaces glow like beating hearts. Each blade is more than steel, it is sunlight, crystallized into a weapon, a shard of hope forged in fire. For the demon slayer call, this village is sacred, for without it, their war could not be fought. Infinity Castle. If the estate and village embody hope, the Infinity Castle embodies despair. It is not bound by human logic or geography, but an otherworldly fortress that shifts endlessly. Stairs twist into the void, corridors rotate like a nightmare, and every step leads deeper into disorientation. The pounding of a Baiwa's strings reshapes its halls, summoning demons at Muzan's will. This castle is the throne of the demon progenitor, the nest where the 12 Kazuki gather. It is infinite, a prison of chaos, where time loses meaning. For slayers who enter, survival itself becomes a defiance of fate. Mount Fujikasan. In contrast to the dread of the castle, Mount Fujikasan is a place of trials. Covered in blooming wisteria, its slopes appear serene, almost welcoming. Yet it is here that recruits face the final selection, an ordeal that determines whether they will rise as demon slayers or die as nameless victims. At night, demons prowl its paths, caged by the wisteria barrier. For the candidates, survival is not guaranteed. Some return, broken but alive. Others are never seen again. This mountain is a crucible, where fear is transmuted into resolve, and where the thin line between humanity and warrior is drawn. Each of these places, estate, village, castle, and mountain, is more than a setting. They are symbols of the hidden war, the estate of sorrowful guidance, the village of forged hope, the castle of endless corruption, and the mountain of painful rebirth. Together, they map the unseen geography of Taisho Japan, where battles are not fought on fields for glory, but in shadows, with stakes no less than humanity's survival. The geography of Kimetsu no Yaiba is a Japan split in two cities, glowing with modern brilliance, villages shrouded in ancient fear. Between them lie places hidden from the world, estates of sorrow, villages of fire and steel, castles of chaos, and mountains of trial. Progress may have changed the surface of the nation, but beneath it, shadows endure. Electric light cannot erase the darkness in the woods, nor can trains outrun the demons that stalk the night. And so, within this fractured landscape, the battle continues, a secret war fought where humanity least expects it. Society and culture. Picture a bustling village market in Taisho-era Japan. Farmers sell baskets of rice and vegetables, children chase one another between stalls, and elders gossip by the shrine steps. To the people here, life feels ordinary, secure. Stories of monsters are nothing more than folklore told to frighten children. The world, they believe, belongs to humans alone. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, newspapers praise the nation's progress, factories roaring, soldiers drilling, trains connecting distant prefectures. Reports of strange deaths are dismissed as accidents or the work of criminals. Citizens trust in modernity, certain that the light of electricity has driven away the darkness forever. Yet, between the cracks of this everyday life, shadows linger. Families whisper small prayers when they pass shrines. Villagers hang talismans of wisteria without questioning why, repeating traditions older than memory. These gestures, born of superstition, are in truth their last fragile barrier against an unseen threat. Society moves forward in ignorance, blind to the truth that demons still walk among them. This world of ordinary people, confident in progress and ritual, forms the fragile stage upon which the demon slayer core fights a secret war no one else dares to see. The ignorance of the people. In Taisho-era Japan, most people walked through life with no knowledge of demons. To them, the world was dangerous in ordinary ways. Crime in the cities, hunger in the countryside, wolves or bandits in the mountains. But monsters? No, such things belong to old folk tales or bedtime stories. The thought that something inhuman stalked the night was unthinkable, almost insulting to the pride of a modernizing nation. When travelers vanished, newspapers reported it as theft or violence. When entire families were slaughtered in remote villages, the explanations ranged from wild animals to freak accidents. And because these answers fit neatly within the logic of ordinary life, the public accepted them. It was easier to believe in a bear or a murderer than to admit that something beyond human comprehension might exist. Ignorance in this sense was not just lack of knowledge, it was a shield, a way to keep the world manageable. This ignorance was most visible in the cities, in Tokyo's Asakusa district, where neon signs glowed above crowded avenues. The idea of demons seemed absurd. The bustle of trade, the thrill of entertainment, the roar of trains, these noises drowned out whispers of the supernatural. Progress promised safety. To admit the existence of demons would be to undermine the very foundation of modern pride. In the countryside, however, the ignorance took a different shape. Villagers often whispered about strange deaths, about red eyes glimpsed at the edge of fields, about cries heard in the forest. Yet even here, the truth was rarely spoken aloud. Fear transformed into superstition, disguised as tradition. Parents told their children never to wander after dusk. Elders repeated warnings about voices calling from the trees. Wisteria flowers were planted at village gates without anyone remembering why. Such customs endured because they worked, even if no one knew the reason. But when tragedy struck, explanations still fell back on the ordinary. A missing child, surely wolves, a farmer who never came home, perhaps he fell from the cliffs. This way, the people preserved their sense of order. To name the true culprit, to say the word Oni, would be to shatter the fragile illusion of safety. Imagine a small boy in a mountain village. He laughs when his grandmother warns him not to play outside after sunset. He believes her fear is just an old superstition. That night, another family in the village disappears. The adults whisper explanations, but the boy notices the claw marks gouged deep into wood. He begins to wonder if his grandmother was right. This is the paradox of the Taisho world. The closer people lived to danger, the more they clung to denial. Ordinary citizens built their lives on silence, their ignorance forming an invisible wall between themselves and the unbearable truth. It was not courage that kept them alive, it was their refusal to see. Government and neglect. While ordinary people lived in blissful ignorance, the government of Taisho, Japan, looked the other way. Its eyes were fixed firmly on modernization and military expansion. The nation was rising as a new power on the world stage. Factories roared, armies drilled, and politicians debated how to extend Japan's influence abroad. In this vision of progress, there was no room for ancient terrors. Reports of strange killings did reach official desks. Whole families found dead in their homes, bodies mutilated in ways that could not be explained by human hands. Travelers, disappearing along rural roads without a trace. Yet each time, the conclusions were predictable. Wild animals, robbery, accidents, anything but the truth. For the government, acknowledging demons would mean admitting that modernization had not conquered the darkness. It would shatter the illusion of control, and that could not be allowed. The Demon Slayer Corps operated entirely outside the state. No recognition, no funding, no medals. To the authorities, they were a rumor at best, vigilantes at worst. Their battles were erased from records, their sacrifices unacknowledged. When slayers fought and died in villages, their blood soaked into the soil without a single line in official archives. The government's silence was as deliberate as it was cold. Imagine a police officer in Tokyo investigating a series of killings in Asakusa. The victims bear wounds too deep and clean to be made by any blade, their bodies drained of blood. The officer files his report, but his superior stamps it with a neat conclusion: murder by unknown criminal. Case closed. Outside the station, a demon slayer sharpens his Nichirin Blade, preparing for another night's hunt. The two worlds brush past each other, never officially meeting. This neglect was not mere incompetence, it was policy. Japan's rulers wanted to present their nation as modern, rational, civilized. Demons did not fit that image, and so the truth was buried under paperwork, hidden behind bureaucratic explanations. The government placed its faith in guns and cannons, never realizing that no amount of steel could harm creatures born of darkness. For the Corps, this meant they fought alone. No reinforcements would come, no recognition would follow. The state they defended did not even admit that they existed, and yet they continued, because if they did not, no one else would. Faith, tradition, and the wisteria flower. If the government turned away from the truth, ordinary people turned to something older than laws: faith. Across Taisho, Japan, shrines and temples stood quietly among fields and mountains. Their bells rang in the morning, incense curled into the sky at dusk, and people bowed in prayer without fail. To most, these rituals were habit, traditions handed down from ancestors. Yet, in the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, these customs were also humanity's hidden line of defense. Shinto beliefs emphasized harmony with the kami, spirits that lived in trees, rivers, stones, and the wind. Offerings of rice or sake were left at roadside shrines. Villagers whispered thanks to unseen protectors, asking for health, harvest, or safety on long journeys. Buddhism added its own rhythms. Sutras chanted for the dead. Lanterns floated on rivers during Obon to guide souls back to the other world. These practices gave people comfort, binding them to something larger than themselves. Among these traditions, one stood out with particular power: the wisteria flower. To most, its purple blossoms symbolized beauty, grace, and the fleeting nature of life. Villages strung them over gates during festivals, not always remembering why. But the Demon Slayer Corps knew the truth. Demons feared wisteria. Its scent poisoned them. Its presence warded them away. Entire mountain paths were lined with the flowers, forming natural barriers that even the strongest Oni dared not cross. What looked like decorative beauty was in reality a wall between life and death. Talismans and charms also played a role. Paper slips inscribed with prayers, beads carved with protective sutras, amulets purchased at temples. All were carried by families as shields against misfortune. Most citizens believed they warded off sickness or bad luck. Yet in a world where demons prowled unseen, perhaps these charms carried more power than anyone realized. Even without knowledge of the threat, humans instinctively armed themselves with faith. Festivals became moments of contrast. During summer Matsuri, children laughed beneath strings of lanterns. Families enjoyed street food, and fireworks painted the sky. Yet woven into the celebration were acts of protection: priests blessing the crowd, dancers invoking ancient stories of gods defeating monsters, villagers hanging wisteria along the streets. What seemed like joy was also vigilance. though the people no longer recognized it. Their ancestors had fought darkness, and their descendants kept the traditions alive, even if the reason had been forgotten. Imagine walking through such a festival. The music of taiko drums fills the air, masks of foxes and tengu grin from stalls, and paper lanterns float like stars. It feels like celebration, like safety. But in the shadows beyond the lights, a pair of crimson eyes watches hungrily. The demon cannot cross the barrier of blossoms draped above the street, yet it waits, patient, knowing that one step into darkness could mean death. Faith in Kimetsu no Yaiba is more than superstition. It is survival, dressed in ritual. Shinto, Buddhism, and folk traditions form a net that unknowingly shields humanity. While governments deny and citizens ignore, it is the old ways, the flowers, the charms, the prayers that hold the night at bay. The samurai legacy. By the Taisho era, the age of the samurai was long gone. Their swords had been surrendered during the Meiji Restoration, their castles dismantled, their privileges erased. And yet, though their class had vanished, their spirit lingered like an echo across Japan. In stories told to children, in family sayings, and in the quiet values passed from parent to child, the code of Bushido, honor, loyalty, sacrifice, still lived. For ordinary people, these values appeared in subtle ways. A father reminded his son that duty to family came before all else. A mother told her daughter that keeping one's word was the measure of true character, to live with dignity, to die without shame. Such ideals had become cultural bedrock, shaping the way communities endured hardship. Even as trains rattled across the land and factories belched smoke into the sky, these old virtues whispered beneath the noise of progress. Within the Demon Slayer call, the samurai spirit was not just memory, it was their foundation. Slayers fought with swords in an age of rifles and cannons, not because they rejected modernity, but because only the blade, wielded with discipline, could defeat demons. Their lives embodied Bushido, courage in the face of certain death, loyalty to comrades, honor in sacrifice. A slayer's death was not considered failure, but fulfillment of duty. In this way, the call became the truest heirs of the samurai, even if history had forgotten them. Imagine a young swordsman kneeling before his master, bowing deeply before rising to begin his training. He knows the path ahead offers no reward, no fame, only struggle and likely death. Yet he accepts, because to turn away would dishonor those who came before him. That willingness to die for others, to stand between the helpless and the darkness, is the essence of the old code reborn. Even in the larger society, fragments of the samurai spirit remained. During festivals, storytellers recited tales of legendary warriors who defended villages against impossible odds. Songs and poems spoke of loyalty that endured beyond death. These cultural remnants reminded people that in the face of fear, strength was found not in survival at all costs, but in living and dying with honor. Thus, though the samurai no longer walked the land, their presence lingered as an invisible backbone. For the slayers, it was a living tradition. For the people, it was a distant memory. Together, these values provided the courage humanity needed to endure a world where demons still prowled unseen. The society of Taisho Japan in Kimetsu no Yaiba is built upon paradox. Ordinary citizens live wrapped in ignorance, convinced that science and progress have erased the superstitions of the past. The government, focused on armies and factories, turns a blind eye to the shadows in its midst. And yet, within homes and villages, people still bow before shrines, hang talismans, and string wisteria across their gates, gestures that keep them alive without their knowing. Beneath it all lies the faint echo of samurai values, honor, loyalty, and sacrifice, surviving in whispers even after the swords themselves were outlawed. This cultural fabric, woven from denial, tradition, and memory, forms the fragile shield of humanity. But in truth, these protections would not be enough. Lanterns, charms, and whispered prayers cannot stop demons forever. To truly face the darkness, Another force was needed, a force that carried the samurai's spirit, fought with weapons forged in sunlight, and bore the burden of knowledge no one else could. And so, hidden behind the veil of society, rises the Demon Slayer Corps, guardians, unrecognized, unseen, but absolutely essential. Demon Slayer Corps. Night settles over the mountains, heavy and still. A group of villagers move along a forest path, lanterns trembling in their hands as they search for a missing child. The silence grows oppressive, then they find its streaks of blood on the ground, claw marks gouged deep into the trees. Fear grips their hearts. Before panic can take hold, a figure steps from the shadows. He wears a dark uniform, his eyes calm, his hand resting on a strange blade that gleams faintly in the moonlight. The villagers watch in stunned silence as a monstrous shape lunges from the forest. In one swift motion, the swordsman's blade arcs through the air, sunlight captured in steel, and the demon collapses into ash. The people try to ask his name, to thank him, but he has already turned away. By the time they blink, he is gone, swallowed once more by the night. This is the world of the Demon Slayer Corps, an organization unrecognized by governments, absent from history books, yet enduring across centuries. Anonymous, secretive, relentless. They are the shield humanity never sees, fighting a war no one else dares to admit exists. Nature and position of the Corps. The Demon Slayer Corps is unlike any institution known to society. It has no government recognition, no military rank, no medals or parades. In the official records of Taisho, Japan, it does not exist. And yet, it has endured for centuries, longer than many dynasties, longer than the governments that rise and fall, bound together by a single, unwavering purpose: to hunt demons. Its origin lies in necessity. Long before railways crossed the land, demons roamed freely, preying on villages and travelers. Families were destroyed, entire communities wiped out in a single night. When no lord, no shogun, no emperor could protect the people, those who had witnessed the horror began to fight back. At first they were scattered warriors, each acting alone, but over time they united, forming a hidden brotherhood dedicated solely to exterminating the darkness. This brotherhood evolved into the Demon Slayer Corps. By the Taisho period, the Corps had grown into a vast but invisible army. They numbered in the hundreds, perhaps more, scattered across Japan's mountains, forests, and cities. Their work was relentless. Each night, while ordinary people slept believing themselves safe, slayers patrolled alleys, fields, and shrines. Every encounter with a demon was a battle fought in silence, with no audience but the stars above and the blood spilled beneath. The Corps demanded everything from its members. Those who joined abandoned the hope of long lives, for the mortality rate was staggering. Few slayers survived beyond their 20s. They fought knowing their deaths would be anonymous, unmarked in history. The world would never know their names, their faces, or the lives they saved. And yet, they continued, because someone had to. Their relationship with society was complicated. To most citizens, the Corps was nothing more than a rumor, a ghost story, or a traveling swordsman glimpsed once and forgotten. Some feared them, whispering that men who carried swords in an age of guns were dangerous. Others respected them vaguely, without ever understanding the depth of their sacrifice. But never were they recognized officially. The state ignored them, the newspapers erased them, and the people forgot them. Imagine a young slayer standing on a village road at dawn, blood drying on his sword, the demon he fought reduced to ash. The villagers emerge from their homes, confused but alive. They see only the aftermath, never the struggle. By the time they thank him, he has already vanished into the mist. His work is done, his presence erased. This is the nature of the Corps, invisible, unacknowledged, yet absolutely vital. The Yaiba clan. At the heart of the Demon Slayer Corps lies the Yaiba family. For centuries, their bloodline has carried the burden of leadership, guiding the organization through war after war with demons. They hold no weapons, fight no battles, yet without them, the core would crumble. Their strength is not in the sword, but in wisdom, compassion, and an unshakable resolve. The Ubuyashiki clan is marked by tragedy. Long ago, when Muzan Kibutsuji became the first demon, his curse spread to his human relatives. The Ubuyashiki line was among them. Every child born into the family inherits a wasting sickness, a slow decay of the body that ensures no leader will live long. Skin pales, flesh weakens, and death comes early. It is a cruel irony. Those destined to lead humanity's defense are themselves fragile, their lives cut short by the same darkness they oppose. And yet, this curse did not break them. Instead, it sharpened their vision. The Ubuyashiki are said to possess a gift of foresight, an intuition that borders on the supernatural. They see patterns others miss, paths others overlook. It is this gift that has allowed them to steer the call with unmatched clarity, keeping its warriors focused not on glory, but on survival and sacrifice. Kagaya Ubuyashiki, the leader during Tanjiro's time, embodies this legacy. His body is frail, his movements slow, his skin marred by the curse. And yet when he speaks, even the strongest Hashira bow their heads. His voice is gentle, but his words carry the weight of destiny. He calls his slayers his children, and in return, they treat him with reverence greater than that given to emperors or generals. He does not demand obedience, he inspires it. Picture the Ubuyashiki estate, hidden deep within forests draped in wisteria. The air is quiet, filled with the rustle of leaves and the soft laughter of children. Kageya sits on a veranda, his fragile body wrapped in silk, surrounded by his wife and daughters. Around him kneel the Hashira, warriors of unimaginable strength, waiting for his counsel. The scene is not one of command and authority, but of family and faith. The core is bound together not by rules, but by the Ubuyashiki clan's belief that every life given in this war has meaning. In their weakness lies their power. They remind the slayers that humanity's true strength does not come from immortality or domination, but from the willingness to sacrifice for others. The Ubuyashiki clan carries the curse of Muzan's blood, yet transforms that curse into hope. They are the quiet heart of the demon slayer core, beating faintly, but guiding all who fight in the darkness. Organization and hierarchy. The demon slayer core is vast and disciplined, structured to turn fragile human lives into weapons capable of cutting through the darkness. At the top of this hidden hierarchy stand the Hashira, the pillars. They are the strongest warriors of their generation, each one a master of a breathing style. Flame, water, wind, stone, thunder, each element flows through their techniques like living forces. To ordinary slayers, the Hashira are legends, distant and awe-inspiring, figures who embody the very limit of human strength. Yet within the core, they are not treated as untouchable heroes, but as vital supports. They are the pillars that hold up the entire structure, keeping the wall from collapsing. Beneath them stretches a strict ranking system. Every recruit begins as Mizunoto, the lowest grade, and must climb step by step through assignments and survival. Few ever make it beyond Kano or Kino, the highest ranks. The hierarchy is not designed for prestige. It is a measure of endurance, a reminder that each rank represents lives risked and battles survived. Advancement is not about medals, but about scars. The core's communication relies on an unusual network, the Kasugai crows. Each slayer is assigned a crow that speaks with a startling clarity, delivering missions, warnings, and orders across vast distances. These birds, intelligent and fiercely loyal, become constant companions. In the dead of night, when a slayer's blade is stained with blood and exhaustion weighs heavy, the sudden cry of a crow is both a summons and a reminder. The war never ends. Discipline binds this structure together. Meetings of the Hashira are solemn, held in the presence of the Ubuyashiki family. Slayers kneel in silence, their swords resting at their sides, while strategy is discussed and fates are decided. Training grounds echo with the sounds of clashing blades and harsh commands. Every lesson drilled into recruits until instinct replaces fear. The core is both family and army, rigid in order, yet bound by shared purpose. Picture the courtyard of the Yaiba estate. Morning sunlight filters through wisteria as the Hashira assemble. Their uniforms are dark, their faces stern. Kagaya's frail voice drifts across the garden, each word listened to with reverence. At his side, Kasugai crows perch silently, awaiting orders. In this moment, the invisible army feels like a single living organism. Every warrior, every rank, every bird united under a mission. The world outside does not even acknowledge. The hierarchy of the core is not built on titles or fame, but on necessity. Every rank, every crow, every order exists to ensure that when night falls, humanity still has defenders standing between it and annihilation. Weapons and equipment. The Demon Slayer Corps fights not only with courage, but with tools forged for a single purpose: to pierce the immortality of demons. Ordinary weapons are useless. Guns, cannons, even the sharpest steel cannot kill an Oni. To stand a chance, Slayers wield instruments infused with sunlight, tradition, and ingenuity, each one a reflection of their hidden war. Foremost among these are the Nichirin Blades, forged from ores that have absorbed the sun's rays atop sacred mountains. These swords are the core's lifeblood. The process of forging is a secret guarded fiercely by the hidden swordsmith village. When a slayer receives a blade, it changes color according to its wielder's soul. Scarlet flames for those of burning spirit, rippling blue for calm water, lightning's yellow, mist's white. To hold a Nichirin is to carry a fragment of the sun itself, the only force demons cannot endure. Each blade is not just a weapon, but a mirror, revealing the warrior's inner nature. Their uniforms, though simple in appearance, are woven from special fabric resistant to claws and fangs. Dark in color, practical in design, they mark the wearer as a member of a lineage, stretching back centuries. They are not ceremonial, but functional, stitched for survival, not display. The core also employs the natural enemy of demons, wisteria. Its blossoms, beautiful and fragrant, conceal deadly power. Extracts are refined into poisons, used in traps, darts, and even hidden blades. Some mountains are ringed with wisteria trees, forming barriers demons dare not cross. What ordinary people see as decoration, the core transforms into a weapon. Every piece of equipment tells a story. A slayer polishing his blade by firelight knows he is holding the product of countless hours of labor from unseen swordsmiths. A recruit tightening the cords of his uniform feels the weight of generations who wore the same fabric before falling in battle. Even the smallest vial of wisteria poison represents centuries of adaptation, tradition weaponized into survival. Picture the swordsmith village at night. The air is filled with sparks and the rhythm of hammers striking metal. Flames roar inside furnaces, casting shadows of masked artisans bent over their work. To them, forging a Nichirin is not craft but prayer, an offering of sunlight shaped into steel, sent into the hands of warriors who may not live to see another dawn. Weapons and equipment of the Demon Slayer Corps are more than tools. They are the physical embodiment of hope, artifacts of a war that humanity denies but cannot afford to lose. Every blade, every stitch, every blossom of wisteria is a reminder. Demons may regenerate endlessly, but humans can create, adapt, and endure. Training in the final selection. To become a demon slayer is to abandon an ordinary life and step into a crucible where weakness is burned away. Training within the core is brutal, designed not only to hone strength, but to break fear itself. Recruits rise before dawn, their bodies subjected to endless drills, running mountains with weighted packs, swinging swords until their arms tremble, holding stances until their muscles scream. Their masters push them beyond exhaustion, beyond the limits of breath, until breathing itself becomes weapon and lifeline. Central to this discipline is breathing technique training. Recruits learn to control every inhalation and exhalation, expanding their lung capacity until oxygen floods their blood, granting speed, power, and focus beyond normal human limits. Hours are spent beneath waterfalls, in frigid air, or running until lungs burn, all to master the rhythm of survival. Sword forms are practiced thousands of times, not until perfect, but until instinct, until a blade can move before thought. Yet no amount of training alone makes one a slayer. To join the corps, recruits must face the ordeal known as the final selection. On Mount Fuji-Kasan, a place steeped in legend, demons are deliberately imprisoned within fields of blooming wisteria. For 7 nights, candidates are released into the mountain, armed only with their blades. The task is simple: survive. The mountain is deceptively beautiful, its paths glowing with pale blossoms. But beyond the flowers lurk demons, some weak, others cunning, all hungry. Each night, screams echo through the trees, cut short as candidates fall. Many never emerge. Those who do return carry scars, not only on their bodies, but on their souls. They have seen the abyss and endured it. Imagine standing at the base of Fuji-Kazan as the trial begins. The moon hangs above, pale and cold, while wisteria petals drift through the air. Dozens of recruits, trembling yet determined, step past the gates. Some glance back at the lanterns, at the safety they are leaving behind. Then the gates close, the forest swallows them. For a week, they vanish into nightmare. Those who survive emerge changed. They kneel before the corps, presented with uniforms, kasugai crows, and their first true Nichirin blades. They are no longer ordinary humans. They are slayers, bound to a war the rest of the world will never acknowledge. The final selection is not merely a test of skill, it is a rite of passage, the threshold between ignorance and truth. Through training and trial, the corps ensures that every slayer who walks into the night is prepared to die, and if fate allows, to win. The Demon Slayer Corps is an army without recognition, a family bound not by blood, but by sacrifice. Its warriors fight in silence, their victories erased by dawn, their deaths unmarked by history, led by the fragile wisdom of the Yaiba clan, strengthened by the pillars and the countless ranks beneath them. They endure with only one purpose: to hold back the darkness that no one else will admit exists. Their weapons are forged sunlight, their bodies trained until every breath is a blade, their souls tempered by trials like Fuji-Kasan. They live knowing the world does not see them, yet they continue, because their absence would mean humanity's end. This is the paradox of the corps, invisible to society, yet essential to its survival. But the question remains, what exactly do they fight? What is this enemy that devours families, corrupts souls, and stalks both city alleys and mountain roads? To understand the corps fully, one must turn to their adversaries, the demons themselves. And so beyond the flicker of lanterns and the clang of swords, we step into the abyss, into the world of the Oni, born of one man's curse and sustained by humanity's darkest desires. Demons Oni. Night falls over Asakusa, and the streets glow with electric light. Crowds laugh and chatter beneath neon signs. Vendors call out their wares, and families stroll together as if nothing in the world could harm them. Among them walks a man in a spotless white suit, his hand resting gently on the shoulder of a child. To every passerby, he seems the picture of refinement, a husband, a father, a man of modern dignity. But then he turns down a narrow alley, away from the noise and brightness. In the dim shadows, his smile fades, his eyes gleam crimson, and for a moment, his skin ripples with something inhuman. A scream pierces the night, then silence. When the crowd passes by again, the alley looks unchanged, empty but for the faint scent of blood. This is the true face of Taisho Japan, demons walking in plain sight, their hunger hidden beneath the mask of ordinary humanity. They are not creatures of fairy tales, nor shadows banished by progress. They are predators born of one man's curse, multiplying in the darkness, eternal and relentless. To understand the Demon Slayer call, we must first understand the enemy they fight, the Oni. Origin: Muzan Kibutsuji. Every demon in Kimetsu no Yaiba can trace their existence back to a single man, Muzan Kibutsuji. His story begins not with triumph, but with weakness. Born frail and sickly, in an era when medicine was still uncertain, Muzan was told he would not live to adulthood. Each breath was a reminder of fragility, each heartbeat a struggle against the inevitability of death. Desperate to survive, his family sought the aid of doctors and healers, hoping for a miracle. That miracle came in the form of a forbidden treatment, an experimental medicine derived from the elusive blue spider lily. Administered to Muzan, it was meant to heal his failing body. Instead, it transformed him into something unprecedented. His illness vanished, his strength grew, and death no longer held dominion over him. But the gift came with a curse. Muzan was no longer human. He had become the first Oni, a predator of his own kind, bound eternally to the night. From this moment, Muzan's hunger defined him. Human flesh and blood became his sustenance. Sunlight became his greatest enemy, burning his body to ash. To escape this vulnerability, he sought to perfect his condition, experimenting with his own blood. By sharing it with others, he could create more demons, servants, soldiers, or fodder. Some thrived, gaining powers that rivaled legends. Others disintegrated instantly, their bodies unable to endure his essence. Muzan's legacy spread like a plague. Every demon that walks the earth exists because of him, whether they know it or not. His blood carries the curse of transformation, tying every Oni back to his will. And with that blood comes chains. Muzan can kill his creations with a thought, extinguishing their lives should they displease him. Fear is the leash with which he binds his children. Imagine Muzan in the streets of Tokyo, dressed in elegant Western fashion. To the world, he is a man of wealth and refinement, strolling with his family under the glow of modern lamps. But beneath the facade lies an ancient hunger, an immortal being who has outlived empires. His smile is courteous, his voice calm, yet his very presence is a reminder that death can wear the face of a gentleman. Muzan Kibutsuji is not merely the first demon, he is the embodiment of humanity's oldest fear, the refusal to die, the desperate clinging to life at any cost. In chasing immortality, he traded his humanity for monstrosity and condemned countless others to share his fate. Physiology and blood demon arts. To understand demons is to understand the contradiction of their existence. They are both terrifyingly powerful and fatally fragile, a paradox that defines every aspect of their being. At first glance, an Oni may resemble the human they once were. Eyes, limbs, a voice that can imitate kindness. But beneath that mask lies a body freed from human limits and warped into something grotesque. Immortality and regeneration. The most fundamental trait of demons is their ability to regenerate. Wounds that would kill a man instantly, severed limbs, pierced hearts, even decapitation, heal in moments. Blood flows back into vessels, muscle and bone knit together, flesh blossoms anew. This ability makes them nearly impossible to defeat with conventional weapons. Yet their immortality has a fatal limit: sunlight. The touch of dawn burns them to ash, reducing even the strongest to nothing. It is this vulnerability that defines their existence. Demons are creatures of the night, condemned to cower from the light of day. Shape-shifting bodies. Demons possess the power to alter their forms at will. Some stretch their limbs into whips, others grow claws or fangs of impossible length. A single Oni might sprout multiple eyes, mouths, or arms, adapting its body into whatever weapon hunger demands. This ability is both tool and curse. In gaining strength, they abandon human shape, becoming more monstrous the further they fall. Blood demon arts. Among the most horrifying aspects of the Oni are the powers known as blood demon arts. These abilities, awakened by Muzan's blood, vary wildly from demon to demon. Some can weave illusions that trap victims in endless nightmares. Others command elements, ice, fire, blood itself, bending the laws of nature. Still others manipulate space, twisting dimensions into impossible landscapes, like the ever-shifting Infinity Castle. No two demons possess the same art, for each is an expression of their corrupted soul. These abilities are not random, they reflect who the person once was. A musician turned demon may wield sound as a weapon, shattering minds with thunderous echoes. A jealous beauty might use mirrors or threads to ensnare and torment her victims. In this way, blood demon arts are both gifts and curses, magnifying human obsessions until they become prisons of power. Weaknesses. Despite their strength, demons are not invincible. Sunlight remains their greatest enemy, its purity annihilating their corrupted cells. Weapons forged of Nichirin steel, the ore steeped in sunlight, can pierce their bodies, severing heads to halt regeneration. Wisteria flowers, too, poison their blood, weakening or trapping them. These vulnerabilities are thin cracks in an otherwise unbreakable shell, but for the Demon Slayer core, they are the only hope. Picture a demon in battle. Its arm elongates into a whip of bone and sinew, striking with speed that blurs the air. Its body splits into clones, illusions spiraling across the battlefield. Yet with each strike of a Nichirin blade, it reels, and when dawn breaks, its defiance ends, its body igniting, crumbling into ash that scatters on the wind. Demons are predators, yes, but also prisoners, immortal in the dark, powerless in the light. Their physiology is the mirror of their tragedy. In fleeing death, they chain themselves to an existence of endless hunger and fear. The demon hierarchy. Though demons are born from Muzan's blood, they are not equal. Their world is a twisted reflection of human society, built upon fear, domination, and hunger. At its pinnacle sits Muzan Kibutsuji, the absolute ruler, whose will is law and whose displeasure means instant death. From him cascades a hierarchy of power, each layer defined not by loyalty or justice, but by the strength to survive. Muzan, the progenitor. Muzan's power is absolute. With a thought, he can strengthen his servants or annihilate them from within. Demons who disobey feel their cells ignite, their bodies torn apart by his command. His presence alone reduces even the strongest to trembling. To them, he is not a leader. They worship him as a god, for their lives literally belong to him. The 12 Kizuki. Directly beneath Muzan are the Junikizuki, the 12 demon moons. This elite circle is divided into upper and lower ranks, each member marked with their number carved into their eyes. The lower moons, though powerful compared to ordinary demons, are fragile in Muzan's eyes, replaced frequently, discarded the moment they falter. The upper moons, however, are near immortal terrors. Each has survived for centuries, perfecting their blood demon arts to nightmarish mastery. Battles with them are infamous, wars fought by generations of slayers, with victory rarely won. Their existence alone is proof of Muzan's dominion. Lesser demons. Beyond the Kizuki sprawls a multitude of lesser demons. Some are cunning hunters that prowl city alleys, wearing human masks until hunger overwhelms them. Others are wild beasts that haunt forests and mountains, driven only by instinct. Many were once ordinary people, transformed against their will. Their powers are inconsistent. Some wield terrifying arts, while others are little more than rabid predators. But even the weakest Oni remains a threat, for a single mistake can cost a human life. The chain of fear. This structure is maintained not by loyalty, but by terror. Demons fear Muzan more than the slayers, for his control over their bodies is inescapable. The lower moons live in constant dread, each meeting with Muzan potentially their last. The upper moons revel in their strength, but remain bound by fear of failure. Even the most defiant demon bows to his authority, for rebellion means annihilation. The Infinity Castle. This hierarchy, gathers within the Infinity Castle, the surreal fortress controlled by Muzan's loyal servant, Nekime. Its endless halls and shifting stairways are the throne room where Muzan asserts his dominance. Here, the 12 Kizuki kneel, awaiting his commands. The air hums with the resonance of biwa strings, each note rearranging the space itself. It is both palace and prison, a symbol of Muzan's twisted empire. Imagine standing in that impossible castle. The floor tilts, the walls stretch endlessly, and in the center, Muzan sits calm and smiling, while demons bow before him. The scene resembles a court of kings and generals, yet there is no honor here, only fear and hunger. This is the society of demons, a pyramid of terror, with Muzan enthroned at its apex, and beneath him, a legion of monsters, shackled by the very blood that gave them life. Symbolism and meaning. Demons in Kimetsu no Yaiba are not only monsters of flesh and fang, they are mirrors, reflections of human weakness, magnified and distorted until they become unrecognizable. Every Oni was once human, and in their fall, they carry with them the desires, obsessions, and fears that define their lives. At the heart of their existence is the fear of death. Muzan himself embodies this truth. His transformation came from terror at his own mortality, a desperate refusal to accept the natural end of life. Every demon he creates shares this curse. They live endlessly, yet their immortality is hollow. They are prisoners of the night, doomed to hide from the sun. In clinging to eternity, they forfeit their humanity. Demons also represent desire, twisted into corruption. A woman obsessed with beauty becomes a creature who consumes the young to preserve her own face. A man driven by hunger becomes an endless devourer, never satisfied. A warrior who craved power turns into a beast defined by violence. Their blood demon arts are not random gifts, but the manifestations of these cravings, powers that trap them in the very obsessions that once ruled their human lives. In this way, demons serve as cautionary tales. They are what happens when human desires grow unchecked, when fear overwhelms acceptance, when the longing for more becomes stronger than the will to live with meaning. Each demon is not simply an enemy to be slain, but a story of what humanity could become if it abandons compassion, restraint, and honor. And yet, in their destruction lies a strange form of release. When a demon falls to a Nichirin Blade, when sunlight finally burns away their flesh, they often glimpse memories of their lost humanity, families, loves, moments of innocence. Their final tears remind us that they were not born evil. They were human beings, consumed by choices or curses, and only in death do they return to what they once were. Picture the moment dawn breaks, light spills over the horizon, and a demon's scream turns into silence. Their body disintegrates into ash, carried away on the wind. For the slayers, it is victory. For the demon, it is liberation. Thus, demons are more than antagonists. They are symbols of the fragile boundary between humanity and monstrosity, of the eternal struggle between acceptance of mortality and the futile quest to outrun it. In their shadows, we see our own fears, magnified, distorted, and waiting to be confronted. The demons of Kimetsu no Yaiba are predators, yes, but they are also mirrors, showing us what happens when fear and desire overwhelm the human heart. Born from Muzan Kibutsuji's curse, sustained by blood and hunger, they are bound by chains of terror and condemned to flee the light. Their regeneration, their shape-shifting, their blood demon arts, all are extraordinary powers, yet all come at the cost of their humanity. To face them is to confront more than physical danger. Each battle is a clash of philosophies, immortality clinging to shadows versus mortality embraced with honor. Where demons seek endlessly to live, slayers fight knowing death is inevitable. This contrast defines the very soul of the story. But humanity is not defenseless. Against these monsters of the night, the Demon Slayer Corps has forged a weapon unlike any other. Not merely swords, not merely poison, but a discipline that transforms breath itself into strength. a practice that allows fragile human bodies to stand against immortal predators. To step deeper into this hidden war, we must turn to the art that defines the slayers, the breathing styles, where each inhalation becomes power and each sword stroke carries the weight of nature itself. Breathing styles. Night has fallen, and the battlefield is silent, except for the rasp of breath. A young swordsman steadies himself, his lungs burning, his chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm. He inhales deeply, the world narrowing to the sound of air, filling his body. For a heartbeat, time seems to stop, then his blade moves. The sword carves through the darkness, and in its wake, water seems to flow, a torrent rushing forward, shimmering in moonlight. To onlookers, it is only steel and skill, but to those who fight, it feels as if a river itself has been unleashed. Another warrior exhales, his blade igniting in a blaze of scarlet flame, each strike a roaring firestorm against the night. This is the power of breathing styles. In a world where humans are fragile and demons immortal, breathing becomes more than survival, it becomes transformation. Every inhalation fuels strength, every exhalation shapes technique, until even the weakest body can stand against monsters of the dark. In Kimetsu no Yaiba, swords are not just weapons, they are conduits of life itself, sharpened by discipline, guided by spirit, and awakened through breath. Origin: sun breathing. Every breathing style traces its roots to a single, legendary technique: sun breathing. It was the first and purest form, the source from which all others flow. In its movements lies the essence of life itself. For what power could be greater than the sun, the force that banishes darkness, nurtures all things, and reduces demons to ash? Sun breathing was first wielded by Yoriichi Tugikuni, the most gifted swordsman to ever live. Born in an age when demons ravaged unchecked, Yoriichi possessed an innate mastery that no training could explain. His strikes were flawless, his rhythm divine. When he inhaled, his body aligned with nature. When he exhaled, his blade carried the weight of sunlight. With this technique, he fought Muzan Kibutsuji himself, driving the progenitor of demons to the brink of annihilation. Though Muzan survived, he never forgot the terror of standing against the sun incarnate. The forms of sun breathing are a dance of radiant arcs and burning circles. Strikes resemble dawn, breaking over the horizon, flames spiraling like solar flares. Each technique embodies the unstoppable cycle of the sun, rising, blazing, and setting only to rise again. To witness it is to glimpse the fusion of man and nature, mortality wielding the weapon of eternity. Yet sun breathing is also a burden. Its perfection makes it nearly impossible to master. The human body, frail and finite, can rarely withstand the strain. Even Yoriichi's descendants struggle to inherit it, their attempts fragmenting into adaptations that became the breathing styles we know today. Water, flame, wind, thunder, stone, all are echoes of sun breathing, reflections of the original light refracted into many colors. Picture Yoriichi beneath the morning sky, his blade raised as sunlight crowns the mountains. His breath steadies, his stance lowers, and with a single stroke, he cleaves the shadows as if he were the dawn itself. To demons, sun breathing was not just a technique, it was terror, the embodiment of their only true weakness. Thus, the story of breathing styles begins not with invention, but with inheritance. All who breathe in battle carry a fragment of the sun, a spark passed down from Yoriichi's first blaze. The original may be nearly lost to time, but its echoes live on in every slayer's blade, every inhalation, every final stand against the night. The 5 foundational styles. When sun breathing proved too perfect, too immense for most humans to grasp, swordsmen of later generations sought fragments they could wield. From its brilliance emerged 5 foundational branches, simpler, more focused techniques that ordinary humans could master. These became the cornerstones of the Demon Slayer core: water, flame, wind, thunder, and stone. Each one is not merely a fighting style, but a philosophy, a reflection of nature itself, channeled through steel and breath. Water breathing. Calm, fluid, and adaptive, water breathing is the most widely practiced style. Its forms flow like rivers, shifting seamlessly between offense and defense. Practitioners imagine themselves as currents, yielding to pressure, yet striking with relentless persistence. In battle, their blades ripple like waves, striking in smooth arcs that never cease. This style embodies patience and resilience, the ability to endure and adapt, to carve through rock as water does over centuries. Flame breathing. Where water is soft, flame is fierce. Ides strikes erupt like firestorms, overwhelming opponents with burning intensity. The user's spirit ignites with each breath, every movement embodying courage and sacrifice. Flame breathing does not hesitate. It consumes. The late flame Hashira, Rengoku Kyojuro, exemplified this philosophy, fighting with unyielding spirit even when outmatched. His blade did not merely cut, it blazed with the passion of a warrior's heart. Wind breathing. Wild and unrestrained, wind breathing mirrors the storm. Its forms slash in unpredictable arcs, like gales tearing through forests or whirlwinds splitting the air. Practitioners embrace chaos, overwhelming demons with ferocity and speed. It is not a gentle style, it is freedom unbound, destruction unleashed, a tempest wielded in human hands. Thunder breathing. If wind is chaos, thunder is precision. Its strikes are instantaneous, explosive bursts of speed. Practitioners train endlessly to compress strength into a single decisive blow, faster than the eye can follow. Thunder breathing embodies decisiveness, the ability to strike at the exact moment needed, to channel all energy into a lightning-fast cut that ends battles before they begin. Stone breathing. Steadfast and immovable, stone breathing is the heaviest of the five. Its forms emphasize power and defense, the slayer becoming as unyielding as mountains. Each strike is crushing, deliberate, breaking demons with overwhelming force. Practitioners are pillars in the truest sense, protectors who embody endurance, standing unshaken even when storms rage. Together, these five branches form the foundation of all other breathing styles. They are not copies of sun breathing, but reflections of its light refracted into humanly attainable paths. Each one grants ordinary men and women the chance to grasp fragments of eternity, to turn fleeting breath into power that can rival immortality. Imagine five slayers standing side by side. One flows like water, another blazes with fire, another howls like the wind, another strikes like lightning, and the last stands like a mountain. They are not gods, nor demons, but humans, fragile yet unyielding. In their unity lies the proof that humanity can face the night and not falter. Variants and derivatives. From the five foundational styles blossomed countless branches, personal adaptations born of necessity, creativity, and individuality. Where one swordsman found water too gentle, another forged mist. Where thunder was too rigid, sound emerged. These variants are proof that breathing is not just technique, but expression. Each slayer carves a path shaped by personality, instinct, and will. Sound breathing. Derived from thunder, sound breathing transforms battle into rhythm. Practitioners break combat into beats and scores, reading the chaos of war like a musical composition. Explosives and dual blades punctuate the melody, creating crescendos of destruction. To fight with sound is to conduct a symphony of violence, overwhelming demons with deafening precision. Mist breathing. A refinement of water, mist breathing cloaks movement in obscurity. Users fade in and out of perception, strikes appearing from veils of fog. This style embodies ambiguity, leaving opponents grasping at illusions until the killing blow arrives. It is the art of silence and subtlety, a reflection of swordsmen who trust misdirection over brute force. Insect breathing. Born from flower breathing, insect breathing emphasizes speed and precision over raw strength. Its users wield small, piercing blades laced with wisteria poison, exploiting demons' only true chemical weakness. Strikes resemble stings and bites, swift, graceful, lethal. It is delicate, yet deadly, a dance of venom hidden in elegance. Love breathing. A unique branch of flame, love breathing, reflects passion transmuted into strength. Its forms are fluid, unpredictable, and deeply tied to emotion. Every swing carries not only physical power, but the intensity of human connection. It reminds us that even in a world of blood and shadow, affection itself can be a weapon. Beast breathing. An instinctive offshoot of wind, beast breathing was forged not through training, but through feral will. Practitioners fight like predators, dual blades tearing with savage rhythm, senses heightened to animalistic sharpness. Their strikes echo claws and fangs, raw and untamed. Beast breathing rejects refinement, embracing primal force as the truest expression of battle. Serpent breathing. Another offshoot of water, serpent breathing twists with serpentine precision. Its forms mimic the unpredictable slither of a snake, blades bending around defenses and striking from impossible angles. It embodies patience and cunning, a predator waiting for the moment to strike. What unites these derivatives is their humanity. Each slayer took what was taught and reshaped it, crafting styles that suited their soul. They are living proof that breathing is not rigid doctrine, but evolving art. No two warriors fight alike, for no two hearts beat in rhythm with the same breath. Picture the battlefield. Explosions, thunder in sync with sound breathing. Mist curls around silent footsteps. A poisoned blade flashes. Serpentine arcs slash unseen. A feral roar splits the night. The fight becomes not just survival, but spectacle, each style painting its own vision across the canvas of darkness. The derivatives remind us of a truth. While demons may share Muzen's blood, slayers wield infinite variety. It is this creativity, this refusal to fight by a single script, that ensures humanity will never be predictable prey. The mechanism, breath as power. At its core, every breathing style is built upon a simple truth. Life begins with breath. The Demon Slayer core transformed this most basic act into their greatest weapon. By controlling respiration, Slayers push human limits into realms that border on the supernatural. The practice is called total concentration breathing. Through rigorous training, a Slayer learns to regulate oxygen intake with absolute precision. Every inhalation floods the blood with strength. Every exhalation releases tension, sharpening reflexes. Muscles knit faster, wounds close sooner, perception heightens to near-inhuman levels. What for ordinary people is survival becomes, for Slayers, a catalyst of transformation. This mastery is not easily earned. Trainees endure months of grueling exercises, holding their breath underwater, exhaling against immense resistance, or running mountains until their lungs feel aflame. The body screams for air, but discipline demands control. Over time, breath ceases to be automatic. It becomes conscious, deliberate, and lethal. Mechanically, the result is astonishing. Oxygen-rich blood delivers explosive bursts of energy, granting Slayers the speed to rival thunder, the strength to shatter stone, the endurance to fight through wounds that should cripple. Combined with Nichirin Blades, breath bridges the impossible gap between mortal man and immortal demon. And yet, breath is more than science. It is rhythm, spirit, and intent. Each style embodies not only physical technique, but inner harmony, the calm of flowing water, the fury of fire, the stillness of stone. To breathe in battle is to align the body with nature itself, turning fragility into force. Imagine a Slayer standing against a towering Oni. The demon's claws gleam, its hunger overwhelming. The Slayer closes his eyes, inhales deeply. In that instant, the fear does not vanish, it is transformed. Breath steadies the heart, strengthens the grip, sharpens the blade. When he exhales, his body moves with power beyond measure. Breath is what makes humans capable of standing against monsters. It is not magic, nor divine blessing, but the refinement of the very act that keeps us alive. In the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, to breathe is to fight, and to master breathing is to seize the strength to change fate itself. Artistic visualization of combat. The breathing styles of Kimetsu no Yaiba are more than martial arts. They are expressions of spirit, made visible through the language of imagery. To an ordinary bystander, a slayer's blade is simply steel cutting through air. But within the story, each technique manifests as a vision: water rushing, fire blazing, lightning striking, transforming combat into something poetic, almost mythic. Water breathing produces swirling torrents, waves crashing as blades slice through the night. Its imagery conveys fluidity and persistence, the endless rhythm of rivers carving through stone. Flame breathing bursts into roaring infernos, every strike searing with passion and sacrifice. Where water flows, fire consumes. Thunder breathing is instantaneous, a single streak of lightning across the darkness, blinding in its brilliance. In contrast, wind breathing howls with invisible fury, blades slashing like gales that shred everything in their path. Stone breathing, slow and monumental, conjures images of immovable cliffs and crushing boulders, each strike resonating with the weight of earth itself. The derivative styles extend this artistry. Mist breathing cloaks the battlefield in shifting illusions, blades striking from nowhere. Sound breathing transforms combat into spectacle, explosions erupting in rhythm like a deadly orchestra. Insect breathing sparkles with delicate precision, blades glinting like the wings of butterflies before delivering poison-laced death. Even love breathing carries unique imagery, arcs of color and grace that embody strength born of emotion. These images are not literal spells, they are metaphors, the externalization of spirit. Yet in the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, metaphor and reality blur. To the slayer, the water feels real, the fire burns, the lightning cracks. To the demon facing them, these illusions are indistinguishable from truth. Art and battle intertwine, creating duels that are as much theater as war. Picture Tanjiro Kamado facing Rui of the lower moons. His water-breathing arcs shimmer in the moonlight, clashing against webs sharp enough to cut flesh. Or Rengoku Kyojuro battling Akaza, his flame-breathing, igniting the night sky in a blaze that outshines even despair. These fights transcend survival. They become legends painted with breath and steel. This visual poetry is what gives the breathing styles their power. They remind us that combat is not only violence, but expression, that even in the face of death, humans can create beauty. Each slash of the blade is both a strike against monsters and a statement of who the slayer is. In their final moments, even as mortality looms, their breath writes a story across the darkness. Breathing styles are the miracle of humanity, fragile bodies transformed into weapons of myth through nothing more than discipline and will. From Yoriichi's sun breathing to the countless branches that followed, every technique is a fragment of light passed down through generations. They are proof that even in the shadow of immortality, mortals can carve their defiance into eternity. Each style is more than a method of survival. It is philosophy, water's adaptability, flame's sacrifice, thunder's decisiveness, wind's freedom, stone's endurance. In every battle, these ideals clash against the twisted desires of demons. Where Oni embody hunger without end, slayers embody breath, finite, fleeting, but purposeful. And yet, even as swordsmen hone their craft, the world around them changes. The Taisho era hums with electricity, trains cut across mountains, and guns line the arsenals of the state. Modernization surges forward, raising a question that lingers in the background: can traditions of breath and blade endure in an age of steel and machines? To answer that, we must leave the forests and battlefields behind for a moment and step into the streets of modern Japan, where the clash between swords and technology reveals another layer of this hidden war. Technology and modernization. A train thunders through the night, its iron wheels sparking against the rails. Inside, electric lamps glow warmly, casting steady light over drowsy passengers and polished Western seats. Outside the windows, telegraph wires stretch into the distance, symbols of a nation racing toward modernity. To the people aboard, this is safety, steel, electricity, and progress carrying them forward. Yet in the corner of the carriage sits a swordsman, hand resting on a blade older than any machine. For when darkness enters, bullets will fail, but steel and breath will endure. Modernization sets reach. The Taisho era was a time of contradictions, Japan stepping boldly into the future, yet still tethered to its ancient roots. Nowhere was this more visible than in the symbols of modernization spreading across the nation. Trains became the arteries of the country, steel tracks cut through valleys and mountains, carrying people farther and faster than ever before. Villages once isolated by days of walking now found themselves only hours from Tokyo. The steady rhythm of wheels on rails was the sound of progress, a promise that distance could no longer bind the nation. Electricity transformed the night. In Tokyo and other major cities, oil lamps and paper lanterns gave way to glowing bulbs strung across avenues. The darkness of evening no longer dictated daily life. The hum of power lines and the buzz of light became symbols of modern civilization, proof that human ingenuity could command even the night. The telegraph extended voices across provinces. News, orders, and messages that once took days now arrived in moments. The empire felt smaller, more connected, more controlled. For the first time, Japan's leaders could shape a nation that pulsed with the speed of wires and machines. Western architecture reshaped skylines. Brick hotels, glass windows, and grand theaters rose beside wooden shrines and tiled roofs. The cities wore two faces, one of tradition, another of ambition. Walking through Asakusa or Ginza, a traveler might pass from a temple gate into a boulevard that looked more like London or Paris than Kyoto. For ordinary citizens, these changes brought a sense of safety. Bright lights, busy trains, and uniformed police seemed to banish the fears of the countryside. To live in the city was to believe that Japan had left behind superstition and stepped into an era of certainty. The night was no longer feared, it was illuminated. And yet, modernization was an illusion of control. For beyond the pools of electric light lay alleys still steeped in shadow. Trains carried demons as easily as people. Telegraph wires hummed with news of progress, but never with reports of disappearances. Beneath the glow of Western chandeliers, predators walked unnoticed among the crowds. Modernization brought change, but it did not bring safety. The futility of guns. With modernization came weapons of war. The Japanese military in the Taisho era prided itself on rifles, artillery, and new technologies borrowed from the West. Soldiers drilled in neat formations, bullets cracking in unison, cannons thundering across fields. To the empire, guns were the very symbol of progress, proof that the nation had entered the modern age of warfare. But against demons, these weapons were little more than noise. A bullet could pierce flesh, even shatter bone, but within seconds, a demon's body would stitch itself whole. Wounds that would end the life of any human healed as if they had never existed. Machine gun fire, no matter how relentless, only delayed the inevitable. Even artillery shells, exploding with enough force to level buildings, could not overcome the Oni's regenerative curse. So long as the sun was absent, so long as a Nichirin Blade did not sever the head, a demon would rise again. The futility of modern arms was a lesson learned in blood. Imagine a rural garrison, its soldiers standing in the glow of lanterns as an unfamiliar shape emerges from the tree line. Rifles are raised, a volley fired, the creature staggers, collapses, and then before relief can form, its body twists back together. In moments, it is among them. Bullets fly, bayonets stab, but nothing slows its hunger. When dawn comes, the barracks is silent, its defenders gone. For the demon slayer call, this truth was never in doubt. They knew that science and steel could not substitute for sunlight and breath. Their Nichirin swords, archaic as they seemed, were the only true answer. Where soldiers clung to their rifles, slayers wielded blades infused with centuries of tradition, sharpened by hands that knew the weight of hope. This contrast created a paradox. To the government, the core looked outdated, men and women clinging to swords in a world of machines. To the core, the government's armies were tragically blind, brandishing useless weapons while ignoring the truth that stalked their people. Both lived in the same world, yet only one understood the enemy that could not be killed by bullets. And so, in the dark corners of Japan, progress faltered. The whistle of trains, the hum of telegraphs, the crack of rifles, all symbols of human advancement, meant nothing when faced with the ancient hunger of demons. Only sunlight, wisteria, and Nichirin steel could decide the outcome of such encounters. Modernity had built stronger walls, louder weapons, brighter lights, but it could not pierce the heart of the problem. Against the Oni, modernization was as fragile as paper. The sword in the age of steel, in an age when rifles lined arsenals and factories produced weapons by the thousands, it seems almost absurd that humanity's survival against demons depended on swords. Yet the Nichirin Blade, forged in fire and sunlight, remained the only tool capable of delivering true death to the Oni. Its very existence was a contradiction, an ancient weapon standing unshaken in the face of modern machines. The Nichirin blades were not mass-produced. Each was forged by hand in the hidden swordsmith village, its ore harvested from mountains that drank the sun's light. Where a rifle was cold steel, stamped in a factory, a Nichirin was alive, changing color to match the soul of its wielder. It was intimate, personal, a bond between human spirit and weapon. No gun could ever claim the same. This contrast was most visible aboard trains. In daylight, locomotives symbolized progress, massive engines of iron and steam, carrying hundreds at a time. But at night, when demons prowled the carriages, it was not bullets that saved the passengers. It was the flash of a Nichirin blade cutting through the dark. One sword, glowing in electric light, did what entire squads of armed soldiers could not. The sword's survival in a mechanized era spoke to a deeper truth. Progress cannot conquer everything. The government could parade cannons in military reviews, could electrify city streets, could build telegraph lines across mountains. But when faced with a creature born of immortality, none of it mattered. Only tradition held the answer. The blade endured not out of stubborn nostalgia, but because it was necessary. There was also philosophy in the sword. Guns were impersonal, allowing one man to kill another from a distance. But a Nichirin demanded closeness, demanded courage. To strike a demon, a slayer had to look into its eyes, to witness its hunger and its pain. Each swing of the blade was not just an attack, but a dialogue between life and death. Picture a carriage bathed in the steady glow of electric lamps. Passengers clutch their seats as a demon snarls down the aisle. A soldier empties his revolver. 6 shots, 6 useless wounds. The monster advances. Then from the shadows, a slayer steps forward. His sword gleams, catching both lamplight and moonlight through the windows. One breath, one strike, and the demon crumbles to ash. The train moves on, progress humming beneath steel wheels, but it is the ancient blade that has preserved every life aboard. In this paradox lies the heart of Kimetsu no Yaiba's world. The machine age could build wonders, but only the sword, ancient, intimate, personal, could hold back the dark. Conflict, tradition versus modernity. The Taisho era was not just a period of modernization, it was a period of tension. On one side stood the forces of progress, trains, factories, telegraphs, electric lights. On the other stood the quiet persistence of tradition, shrines, talismans, wisteria flowers, and the sword. These two worlds coexisted uneasily, often in the same city, sometimes on the same street. For the Demon Slayer call, this conflict was not theoretical. It was lived every night, on every battlefield, where the old and new collided. In the cities, modernization was a shield of ignorance. Tokyo bustled with Western-style theaters and glittering electric lamps. People filled cafes and trams, confident that modernity had conquered fear. When deaths occurred, newspapers framed them as crimes, accidents, or natural disasters. To urban citizens, belief in demons felt archaic, something belonging to old folk tales from the countryside. Progress had convinced them that reason and technology were enough. But in the villages, where mountains pressed close and nights stretched long, traditions still endured. Families strung wisteria across their gates. Shrines at crossroads were tended with offerings. Parents warned children not to wander after sunset. These were not seen as strategies against demons. They were cultural habits, fragments of older wisdom passed down without explanation. In truth, it was these traditions that had unknowingly preserved them. Where the city dismissed superstition, the countryside lived by it. Caught between these worlds were the demon slayers. They carried swords on trains filled with soldiers holding rifles. They knelt at shrines before boarding carriages that sped along steel tracks. They were relics of an older time, yet they moved constantly through the arteries of modern Japan. They were both out of place and essential, guardians who embodied tradition in an age that no longer wanted to recognize it. This conflict was more than cultural, it was philosophical. Modernity promised control, the idea that machines, laws, and science could explain everything, could solve everything. But demons were the embodiment of the unsolvable. They broke the logic of guns and factories. They could not be explained by medicine or conquered by armies. Their existence mocked modernity's promise. Against them, only tradition, the sword, the breath, the flower had meaning. And yet the Demon Slayer Corps could not reject modernity entirely. They traveled by train, used electricity when available, moved through the very modern spaces that denied them. Their struggle was not to turn back the clock, but to survive in a world that had forgotten why tradition mattered. They became a bridge between eras, wielders of swords who fought in city streets, practitioners of breathing techniques who battled beneath electric lamps. Imagine the image of this paradox. In a train carriage, glowing with electric light, passengers murmur in Western-style clothes. A soldier clutches a rifle at his side, and there, in the corner, sits a swordsman in an archaic uniform, hand resting on a blade forged by fire and tradition. To the passengers, he seems out of place, a relic. But when the lamps flicker and shadows writhe at the far end of the carriage, it is not the rifle that saves them, it is the sword. This moment captures the essence of Taisho Japan, a world rushing toward modernity, but still haunted by shadows that only the old ways could face. The clash between tradition and progress was not an argument in books, it was a fight written in blood, night after night, by warriors unseen and unacknowledged. For the Demon Slayer Corps, modernity was a backdrop. Their true war was eternal, humanity's fragile breath against the endless hunger of the dark. Modernization gave Japan trains, telegraphs, and glowing streets, yet none of these could banish the true darkness. Guns rattled, factories roared, and cities rose skyward, but demons still stalked alleys and mountains, untouched by progress. Only the Nichirin Blade, ancient steel guided by disciplined breath, could hold them back. In this contrast lies the paradox of the Taisho era, a nation chasing the future, yet surviving by the strength of its oldest traditions. And beyond machines or swords, a deeper power waited, the unseen faith and philosophy that shaped how humans faced both life and inevitable death. Religion, spirit, and philosophy. Night falls over a small mountain shrine. The forest breathes with the sound of wind through tall pines, and a bell chime sways gently at the gate. Villagers arrive quietly, placing candles and folded talismans at the steps. Their faces are tired, but their gestures are steady, rituals repeated for generations, whether or not they remember why. The flames flicker, casting shadows against the wooden walls, as though unseen presences linger nearby. A wounded demon slayer kneels before the altar. His sword rests across his knees, blood still fresh on its edge. He bows, not to ask for victory, but for peace, for himself if he falls, and for the souls of those who have already been lost. For him, the shrine is not only a sacred space, it is a reminder that his battle is tied to something greater than flesh and steel. In Kimetsu no Yaiba, the war against demons is never just physical. It is a dialogue with the unseen, souls crossing between worlds, prayers whispered into the night, and eternal questions that haunt humanity. What does it mean to live? What does it mean to die? Souls and the afterlife. In Japanese tradition, death does not end a story. Souls linger, passing into other realms, guided by ritual, memory, and the care of the living. In Kimetsu no Yaiba, this belief is woven deeply into the fabric of its world, shaping the way both slayers and demons confront mortality. For the demon slayers, death is an ever-present companion. Each battle is fought with the knowledge that survival is uncertain, and yet, when death comes, it is rarely depicted as meaningless. Slayers often glimpse visions in their final moments, family members welcoming them, ancestors standing silently in the distance, or a path lit softly under moonlight. These images offer not despair, but release. The afterlife in this world is not a void, but a continuation, a passage where sacrifice is recognized and peace is possible. For the demons, the moment of death reveals another truth. Stripped of their monstrous forms by sunlight or the blade, many recall flashes of their human pasts, memories of siblings, parents, or childhood innocence resurface. Tears fall as they realize what they have lost, and often what they had hungered for all along was connection rather than flesh. Their destruction becomes both punishment and redemption. Punishment for the lives they consumed, redemption in the return of their humanity at the very end. This vision of death resonates with the idea of reincarnation. Life and death are cyclical. Even suffering may be transformed into peace when the cycle turns. Demons, who clung desperately to endless existence, are forced to accept mortality in order to find rest. Slayers, who lived with mortality at every step, find their deaths woven into a larger story of continuity. Imagine a field of silver pampas grass, swaying under moonlight. A fallen slayer walks slowly across it, wounds gone, body light, greeted by loved ones waiting at the horizon. Imagine, too, a demon collapsing into ash, but in their final heartbeat, seeing themselves once more as a child, reaching for the hand of a parent long lost. In both images, death becomes not an end, but a return. Thus, in the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, the afterlife is not horror, but resolution. Life may be brutal, filled with hunger and struggle, but death, when embraced with dignity, offers a kind of peace even demons cannot deny. Faith, shrines, and the kami. If swords and breathing techniques are the physical weapons of the demon slayer call, faith is humanity's unseen shield. Even when ordinary citizens know nothing of demons, they cling to traditions, rituals that have endured for centuries, weaving a subtle net of protection around their lives. In Kimetsu no Yaiba, These practices are not mere superstition. They are quiet bulwarks, reminders that the unseen world is never far away. Shinto beliefs form the bedrock of daily life. In this worldview, the kami, divine spirits, inhabit every corner of existence. A towering cedar, a flowing river, even the stones at a crossroads may house sacred presence. To honor them, villagers build shrines, hang bells, and leave offerings of rice or sake. In doing so, they acknowledge that life is intertwined with forces beyond human control. In the story, such shrines often stand at the threshold between safety and danger, a final prayer before venturing into forests where demons roam. Buddhist traditions add another layer. Sutras are chanted for the dead, and during the Obon festival, lanterns float gently down rivers, guiding souls back to the other world. These rituals affirm the belief that the departed are never truly gone. Their presence lingers, waiting for remembrance. In a world where death is constant, such practices provide not only comfort, but meaning, turning grief into connection. The most striking example of faith as protection is the wisteria flower. To ordinary people, its purple blossoms symbolize beauty and fleeting life, but to the demon slayer call, they are the most reliable barrier against demons. Villagers plant them by gates, string them above paths, sometimes without knowing the true reason. Yet these flowers repel predators of the night. Faith and practicality converge here. What seems decorative is in fact a sacred defense. Talismans, charms, and amulets also play a role. Paper slips inked with prayers are carried for luck. Wooden plaques, known as ima, hold written wishes hung at shrines. Families pass down protective beads, believing they ward off sickness and misfortune. In Kimetsu no Yaiba, these items take on additional weight, perhaps powerless against a demon's claw, but powerful in preserving hope, courage, and a sense of connection to something greater. Imagine a summer evening during Obon. The streets glow with lanterns, children laugh as they wear fox masks, and families gather to watch candles drifting on the river. Beneath the surface, joy lies an unspoken ritual, honoring the spirits, ensuring they do not wander lost. Somewhere at the edge of the crowd, a demon watches hungrily, unable to cross the wisteria-lined streets. The people never know how close the darkness has come, but their faith holds it back all the same. Faith in this world is not loud, not triumphant. It is quiet, woven into the rhythm of life. Shrines and temples stand not as relics, but as guardians. Charms are carried not only as superstition, but as lifelines. In the unseen war between man and demon, faith is the armor that the people do not realize they wear. Philosophical themes. At the heart of Kimetsu no Yaiba lies more than bloodshed. Beneath the clash of blades and the cries of demons runs a current of philosophy, a meditation on what it means to live, to die, to remain pure, or to fall into corruption. Through its characters and imagery, the story asks questions as old as humanity itself. Life and death. Life in this world is fragile. The Demon Slayer core knows that at any moment, a single mistake means death. Yet paradoxically, this fragility gives their lives meaning. Slayers fight not to escape death, but to embrace it honorably. They step into battle with the understanding that survival is uncertain, but protecting others makes their sacrifice worthwhile. Demons, by contrast, embody the refusal of death. Born from Muzan's blood, they cling to existence at any cost. They regenerate endlessly, refusing to submit to the natural cycle. But their immortality is hollow. They must kill to sustain it, devour endlessly, and even then, they live in fear of sunlight. In rejecting death, they also reject life, becoming prisoners of hunger. The opposition is clear. Slayers live fully because they accept death. Demons never truly live because they flee from it. The story suggests that to embrace mortality is not weakness, but strength, purity, and corruption. Another axis of the story is purity versus corruption. The world is full of symbols of purity: wisteria blossoms, clear rivers, the discipline of breathing. These are fragile but luminous, representing the best of human nature: compassion, restraint, endurance. Demons represent the opposite. Their power stems from corruption, blood twisted by Muzan, bodies warped into monstrous forms, desires inflamed into obsession. Where slayers breathe to strengthen their humanity, demons consume to smother theirs. Even in battle, this contrast is visualized. When a slayer swings his blade, water or fire surges forth, imagery drawn from nature's purity. When a demon attacks, its blood demon art twists reality, threads that slice flesh, drums that warp space, poison that rots bone. One reflects balance with the world, the other defiles it. The conflict is not just survival, it is a fight to preserve purity against decay. Each demon slain is not merely an enemy defeated, but corruption undone. Legacy and inheritance. Finally, Kimetsu no Yaiba is a meditation on legacy. Humanity does not fight demons with immortal bodies, but with memory, teaching, and succession. Every breathing style is inherited, passed from master to pupil, adapted but never lost. Each technique is proof that one generation's struggle becomes the foundation for the next. The Yubashiki family embodies this principle. Bound by a hereditary curse, each head of the clan dies young, yet they accept this fate, guiding the core with wisdom, knowing their children will continue after them. Their legacy is not measured in years lived, but in lives protected. Even the Kamado family arc reflects inheritance. Tanjiro wields the memory of his ancestors through the Hinokami Kagura dance, unknowingly preserving fragments of sun breathing. His struggle is not his alone, but a continuation of a lineage that stretches back centuries. Demons, by contrast, leave no true legacy. They devour endlessly, but their power dies with them. Muzan spreads his blood, but his children are bound only by fear. They create no inheritance, only cycles of destruction. A shared thread. Together, these themes form a philosophy that human strength lies not in escaping limits, but in accepting them. Mortality gives life value. Purity makes struggle meaningful. Legacy ensures that even in death, humanity continues. Picture Tanjiro standing against a demon. He inhales, his breath steady, his movements carrying echoes of generations before him. Across from him, the demon snarls, body warped by hunger, eyes blazing with the terror of death it cannot accept. In that clash, philosophy becomes flesh. Acceptance versus denial, purity versus corruption, legacy versus oblivion. This is why Kimetsu no Yaiba resonates. Beneath the spectacle of combat, it reminds us that every human breath is finite, every life fragile, but within those limits lies a beauty demons can never touch. The intersection of spirit and battle. In the Demon Slayer call, combat is never just about steel against flesh. Each battle carries a spiritual weight, for the slayers fight not only to destroy, but to redeem. Their swords are instruments of violence, yes, but also tools of prayer, cutting through corruption while honoring the humanity that once existed within every demon. Before missions, slayers often kneel before shrines, bowing their heads in silence. They ask not for victory, but for the strength to protect, for the courage to endure, and for peace should they fall. These gestures connect them to something larger than themselves, the line of warriors who came before, the souls who still walk unseen at their side. When demons are defeated, many slayers offer a quiet word, a final acknowledgement of the human life that was twisted into monstrosity. They do not rejoice in killing. Instead, they grieve for what has been lost and whisper hope that the soul, once freed of Muzan's blood, may find rest. Imagine a Hashira standing over the ashes of a fallen demon. His sword drips with sweat and blood, yet his gaze is not triumphant. He whispers, "Be at peace," before turning away. This act embodies the union of spirit and battle. Every strike, both a fight for survival and a prayer for release. Thus, the war against demons becomes more than survival, it becomes ritual. In the clash of swords, in the rhythm of breathing, in the solemn respect for death, the slayers transform combat into an act of meaning. Their struggle is not merely against monsters of the night, but against despair itself, ensuring that even in death, there remains dignity, connection, and hope. The world of Kimetsu no Yaiba is one where blades and breath decide battles, but beneath the steel lies something deeper. Faith, spirit, and philosophy give the struggle its meaning. Shrines and charms protect even the ignorant. Rituals guide the dead, and each sword swing is a dialogue between purity and corruption, mortality and immortality. For the slayers, to fight is to honor the past, to protect the present, and to entrust hope to the future. Demons may cling to eternity, but their immortality is empty. Humanity's strength lies in its fragility, its ability to create meaning through faith, to embrace death with dignity, and to pass on legacy from one generation to the next. In this sense, every battle is more than a clash of bodies. It is a meditation on what makes us human. And yet, these beliefs and philosophies are not abstract. They are embodied in the world itself, woven into flowers, blades, and breath. The symbols of this war, the wisteria blossom, the Nichirin sword, the images summoned by breathing styles, carry layers of cultural, spiritual, and philosophical meaning. To understand the war fully, we must turn to these symbols, where nature and humanity merge into weapons of hope. Moonlight filters through a forest draped in wisteria, each blossom swaying like a curtain between worlds. Beneath the flowers, a sword gleams, its blade catching the pale glow, its color reflecting the soul of its wielder. The swordsman inhales, breath steady, and with his strike, the night erupts into visions of fire, water, and thunder. Yet far away, hidden in shadow, the infinity castle twists and shifts without end, a nightmare given form. These are the symbols of Kimetsu no Yaiba, delicate, radiant, and terrifying, each one a key to understanding this world. Wisteria, the barrier of purity. Among all the symbols in Kimetsu no Yaiba, few are as quietly powerful as the wisteria flower. Draped in cascading curtains of violet blossoms, it seems delicate, soft petals, gentle fragrance, fleeting beauty. Yet behind that fragile appearance lies one of humanity's most effective defenses against demons. In the story, Wisteria serves as both sanctuary and weapon. Villagers line their gates with hanging blossoms, ensuring that no demon dares cross the threshold. Mountain passes bloom with flowers, whose scent forms an invisible wall, keeping predators at bay. For the demon slayer core, extracts of wisteria are refined into poisons, arrows, and traps, capable of weakening even the strongest Oni. What to ordinary people is simply a seasonal blossom becomes in truth a shield of survival. But beyond function, the wisteria carries deep symbolism. Its beauty is fleeting, its blossoms lasting only a short time before they wither. This transience mirrors human life, fragile, brief, yet radiant. Demons, by contrast, are eternal, their bodies regenerating endlessly. And yet, it is the mortal flower, not the immortal flesh, that holds the greater power. Wisteria reminds us that purity, though short-lived, can withstand corruption that claims to last forever. The imagery of wisteria often marks transitions between fear and safety. A lone traveler might stagger through the forest pursued by shadows, only to collapse beneath a canopy of blossoms where the demons cannot follow. For the demon slayer core, Mount Fujikasan, ringed in wisteria, is the site of the final selection. There, the flowers do not only keep demons contained, they also mark the threshold where recruits pass from innocence into the reality of war. Picture such a scene, the night air heavy with silence, then suddenly alive with petals drifting like snow. The flowers glow pale under moonlight, casting their light over weary slayers. For them, wisteria is more than a plant. It is a reminder that hope does not roar like fire or strike like lightning. Sometimes, hope hangs quietly, swaying in the breeze, fragile yet unyielding. Thus, the wisteria embodies the paradox of humanity's war against demons. The most delicate of things can prove the strongest, and in transience lies a kind of eternity. Nichirin Blades, the personalized light of the sun. If wisteria is humanity's shield, then the Nichirin Blade is its spear, forged from ores that have absorbed the sun's light on sacred mountain peaks. These swords are the only weapons capable of delivering a true death to demons. Their steel is not ordinary metal, it is sunlight given form, a fragment of dawn held in human hands. Each blade is unique, for the moment a swordsman first takes it in hand, the color of the steel shifts to reflect their nature. Water users see their swords turn blue, flames ignite in scarlet, thunder sparks in yellow, and so on. These colors are not merely cosmetic, they are symbolic, mirroring the soul of the wielder. Where rifles of the modern age are mass-produced, cold and interchangeable, Nichirin blades are deeply personal, as individual as the breath that guides them. For the slayers, receiving a Nichirin is more than equipment, it is a rite of passage. The swordsmiths who craft them are hidden away in the secretive swordsmith village, working tirelessly to produce blades of purity and strength. When a young recruit survives final selection, the delivery of their blade marks their rebirth as a true demon slayer. To wield one is to accept both the weight of sunlight and the inevitability of death. The symbolism is profound. Demons cling to eternal life, yet it is these short-lived warriors who carry the sun itself into battle. Each blade is a reminder that mortality, far from being weakness, can become the sharpest edge. The slayer may perish, but while their blade still swings, light cuts through the darkness. Imagine a battlefield at dawn. Dozens of Nichirin blades glimmer in the early light, each glowing with a different hue: blue, red, green, yellow, white. They are like shards of the sun scattered across the earth, each wielded by a fragile human who has chosen to embody that radiance for as long as breath remains in their body. To demons, this sight is terror incarnate. To humanity, it is salvation. And yet, Nichirin blades are not simply weapons of destruction, they are mirrors. The color they reveal is not random, but born from the character, discipline, and heart of the wielder. In this way, the sword becomes an extension of identity, a silent testimony to who the slayer is. A flame Hashira's red blade burns with his passion. A mist user's pale blade drifts with mystery. A beast user's jagged swords echo untamed instinct. Each blade tells a story, each color a philosophy carved into steel. Thus, the Nichirin blade embodies the paradox of Kimetsu no Yaiba. In a world of eternal monsters, humanity's greatest power lies not in endless life, but in fleeting individuality. Every blade is sunlight reborn, carrying the warmth of mortality against the cold of immortality. In their glow, fragile humans become more terrifying to demons than eternity itself. Breathing styles, the bridge of man, nature, and spirit. If Nichirin blades are sunlight given form, then breathing styles are the wind that carries that light. They are the secret that allows ordinary men and women, bound by fragile flesh, to fight creatures born of immortality. By mastering the rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, slayers channel life itself into strength, transforming each heartbeat into power. The origins trace back to sun breathing, the first and most radiant technique. From this root grew branches: water, flame, thunder, wind, stone, each echoing a force of nature. These foundational forms splintered further into derivatives: mist, sound, serpent, love, insect, and more. Together, they form a living tapestry of human resilience, each style both martial technique and philosophy. Breathing is not magic, it is discipline elevated to art. By controlling oxygen intake, slayers flood their blood with strength, sharpening reflexes and fueling movements beyond normal limits. Yet the essence of breathing styles is not merely physical, it is symbolic. Each form embodies a worldview. Water teaches patience and adaptability. Flame burns with sacrifice and courage. Thunder embodies decisiveness, wind chaos and freedom, stone endurance and stability. In this way, fighting styles become mirrors of the human soul. The visual artistry of breathing styles further deepens their meaning. When Tanjiro swings his sword, water surges and flows as though he has become the current itself. When Rengoku unleashes his techniques, fire erupts like an inferno consuming the dark. To onlookers, these manifestations may be metaphor, but within the story, they feel real. Combat, painted in strokes of nature. The battlefield becomes a living canvas, each slash writing poetry in flame, wave, or storm. Philosophically, breathing styles are humanity's answer to the demon's curse. Uni are strong because of their unnatural regeneration, their stolen immortality. Slayers are strong because they turn mortality into power. Breath is finite, measured in moments, in heartbeats, but in mastering it, humans create a strength that is both fleeting and eternal. Every inhale becomes defiance, every exhale, resistance. Picture a group of slayers standing together. One channels flowing rivers, another blazes with fire, a third moves like lightning, a fourth whirls like the storm, and a fifth stands unyielding as stone. They are not gods, nor demons, but humans bound by breath. Yet in unity, they embody the elements themselves, fragments of nature rising against the unnatural. In this harmony of man, nature, and spirit lies the beauty of breathing styles. They remind us that power is not stolen or cursed. It is cultivated. It is not endless, but it is meaningful. And in a world where demons deny death, breathing styles declare that every breath has worth, every fleeting life a chance to shine. Infinity Castle, the nightmare without end. If wisteria represents purity, Nichirin Blade's sunlight, and breathing the rhythm of life, then the Infinity Castle stands as their dark counterpoint. It is not merely a fortress, but a manifestation of chaos itself, the seat of Muzan Kibutsuji's power and the home of the 12 Kizuki. The Infinity Castle is a place where natural law has been unmade. Corridors stretch endlessly, staircases twist upside down, rooms float in impossible directions. One step forward may lead to a chamber above the clouds. Another may plunge a warrior into a cavern deep beneath the earth. Its shifting architecture is orchestrated by Nakime, the biwa-playing demon, whose strings rearrange reality with every note. To enter the castle is to abandon reason. Symbolically, the Infinity Castle is the antithesis of humanity's order. Where shrines and flowers offer sanctuary, the castle embodies distortion. It is Muzan's soul given shape, infinite ambition, endless hunger, a refusal to accept limits. Just as demons cling to immortality, the castle refuses boundaries, sprawling into dimensions without end. Its very structure is corruption made visible. For the demon slayer call, stepping into the castle is like entering a nightmare. Battles unfold on ceilings, in spiraling stairwells, on platforms suspended in nothingness. The environment itself becomes an enemy, disorienting fighters, amplifying Muzan's dominance. Every clash inside is not just against a demon, but against the suffocating presence of chaos. And yet, even within this nightmare, humanity's symbols push back. Flames ignite in twisting corridors, water flows against gravity, thunder splits impossible halls. The castle, for all its distortion, becomes a canvas where breathing styles paint order upon chaos, defiance upon despair. Each sword stroke rewrites the nightmare, even if only for a moment. Infinity Castle thus represents more than a battleground. It is a philosophy in stone and shadow, the belief that corruption can be endless, that chaos can reign eternal. But it also becomes the stage where humanity's finite breath dares to defy the infinite. The world of Kimetsu no Yaiba is not built only from battles, but from symbols. The wisteria flower teaches that purity, though fragile, can hold back corruption. Nichirin blades prove that mortality, when sharpened by will, can burn brighter than eternity. Breathing styles reveal the harmony between human spirit and nature, turning every exhale into defiance. And the Infinity Castle stands as the shadowed opposite, an endless labyrinth where corruption and hunger take form. Together, these elements create a language, one that speaks of life and death, of order and chaos, of fragility and resilience. They remind us that this war is not simply swords against monsters, but philosophies against each other. Each blossom, each blade, each breath is a declaration that even in a world stalked by immortals, humanity has found ways to shine. And so, as the petals fall, as blades rest, and as echoes of breath fade into silence, the meaning of this universe becomes clear. Symbols are not decorations, but anchors. They hold the story together, giving weight to sacrifice and voice to hope. What remains is the legacy of a world where every detail carries meaning, and every symbol tells us what it means to be human. And now let us slow our breath, lower our voice, and drift into the stillness of the night, where Tokyo glimmers faintly, villages whisper with firelight, and the infinity castle unfolds like an endless dream. Night settles over Tokyo, and the city exhales a quiet hum. Electric lamps glow faintly along the streets, their golden light trembling as if unsure of its own strength. Footsteps echo against stone, fleeting shapes of men and women rushing home, their shadows stretching and vanishing into narrow alleys. For them, the night is only an interlude, work finished, rest awaiting. But above, on the tiled rooftops, another presence watches. A demon crouches in silence, eyes gleaming with hunger, following the crowd like a hunter tracking its prey. To the people below, it is invisible. To the city itself, it is part of the night. The modern world may believe it has conquered darkness, but shadows still gather where the light does not reach. The rhythm of the city slows, and the air grows heavy. It is here, in this pause, that the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba reveals itself, not only in battles of fire and steel, but in quiet moments when night presses close and questions surface. What lies beyond the glow of lamps? How thin is the veil between safety and despair? Tokyo by night, the city that never sleeps. Tokyo, in the Taisho era, was alive even after sundown. Street lamps buzzed softly, their pale golden glow spilling across wide avenues and narrow side streets. Signs written in bold Western letters hung beside traditional paper lanterns, casting a blend of the old and the new. The air carried the clang of streetcars, the murmur of voices, the faint scent of roasted chestnuts drifting from vendors. To many, this was proof that modernity had conquered the darkness. Night had become a place of leisure, not of fear. Yet beneath the brightness, shadows gathered. In the smaller alleys where the lamps flickered weakly, figures moved quietly, their footsteps swallowed by silence. To passers-by, they were only other pedestrians, hurrying home or vanishing into tea houses. But on the rooftops above, something else stirred. A demon crouched against the tiles, unseen, its eyes reflecting the glow of the city below. From that height, the electric bulbs seemed fragile, like candles trembling before a storm. Tokyo at night was a paradox, bustling with life, yet never free of death. The citizens believed themselves protected by light and noise, but predators needed neither wilderness nor shadows to hunt. In the midst of progress, danger thrived unnoticed, hidden behind the veil of normalcy. Imagine walking those streets. The lamps stretch endlessly in lines of gold, but the alleys between them sink into blackness. A rickshaw rattles past, its driver's breath steaming in the cold. A woman carrying groceries crosses quickly, glancing over her shoulder at nothing in particular, only at the feeling that lingers when unseen eyes watch. To her, it is paranoia. To the demon above, it is opportunity. This is the heart of Tokyo's night, a city that never sleeps, yet never truly wakes to what shares its streets. The clash of modern and ancient plays out not only in architecture or culture, but in survival itself. Electric lamps hum, yet cannot banish hunger. Crowds fill the roads, yet cannot see the predator perched just beyond their vision. And so the city hums on, alive, restless, blind. To demons, Tokyo is a feast. To slayers, it is a battlefield disguised as progress. To ordinary people, it is simply home, its dangers explained away by headlines and whispers. But in the silence between footsteps, in the stillness between flickering bulbs, lies a truth they cannot see. The night has never been conquered. Swordsmith Village, the forge in the wisteria forest. Far from the restless noise of Tokyo lies a place hidden by petals and silence. Deep in the mountains, where paths are swallowed by trees, the air grows heavy with the scent of wisteria. Curtains of purple blossoms, draped from branches, swaying gently in the night wind. To ordinary travelers, the forest is impenetrable, its beauty both mesmerizing and disorienting. But at its heart burns a light that never fades, the Swordsmith Village. Here, the hammer's rhythm replaces the city's electric hum. Sparks leap from glowing furnaces, scattering into the dark like constellations flung across the night. The ringing of steel against steel carries through the trees, steady and unyielding. Each strike is more than craft. It is prayer, devotion, a heartbeat echoing humanity's determination to resist. In this secluded village, smiths devote their lives to forging Nichirin blades, the only weapons capable of cutting through immortality. The contrast is striking. In Tokyo, progress is measured in telegraphs and trains. In the village, it is measured in sparks and breath. Where the city hides from demons with the false comfort of light, the village confronts the truth. Only the old ways endure. Every blade shaped here is a promise. Every completed sword, a fragment of sunlight trapped in steel. Imagine standing at the edge of the village at night. The wisteria sways above like a living canopy, its blossoms shimmering with pale luminescence. Beneath it, the forges blaze, their fires merging with the purple haze, creating an otherworldly glow. A smith raises his hammer, his face lit orange by the flame, sweat glistening as he strikes again and again. Each sound is both creation and defiance, a declaration that even in secrecy, humanity prepares. The village is more than a forge. It is a sanctuary of resolve. Protected by wisteria and hidden from the eyes of demons, it represents the quiet endurance of tradition. While cities chase novelty, this place holds to necessity. The slayers who come here do not see factories or machines. They see hope, tempered in fire, waiting to be placed in their hands. And so, deep in the night, the Swordsmith Village glows like a heartbeat in the forest, steady, fragile, yet eternal. In its fire, the will of humanity is reforged, again and again, against the endless dark. Infinity Castle, the phantom of darkness. Beyond the safety of wisteria forests and the fleeting warmth of city lamps, lies a place that is neither night nor day, neither earth nor sky. It is the Infinity Castle, an endless fortress suspended in nothingness, the throne of Muzan Kibutsuji, and the domain where the 12 Kizuki bay their heads. To enter it is to abandon the rules of the world, to step into a nightmare-given form. The castle is alive with distortion. Corridors stretch into infinity, then collapse back upon themselves. Staircases spiral sideways, invert, and reassemble in impossible directions. Rooms drift like islands in a black void, their floors tilting, their ceilings suddenly beneath your feet. Gravity becomes suggestion, space becomes a lie. Every note of Nakami's Baiwa reshapes the architecture, a string's vibration turning stability into chaos. For the slayers who cross its threshold, orientation dissolves. Imagine running down a hall, only to find the walls twist into the floor into the ceiling. A torch's light falls upward instead of down. Footsteps echo, but never draw closer or further. Even silence feels endless here, stretching thin until it breaks under the weight of its own emptiness. The castle itself seems to breathe, walls pulsing faintly, shadows deepening with hunger. Symbolically, Infinity Castle is Muzan's soul made visible. Where shrines and flowers reflect balance, this fortress reflects corruption without boundary. It embodies his endless hunger, his refusal to accept mortality, his dream of an existence without limit. Like Muzan himself, it has no true center, only shifting surfaces, a body without a heart, an abyss pretending to be infinite. In its halls, demons wait like phantoms, watching from balconies that stretch into voids. Battles here are never fair. Fighters clash on ceilings, duel across platforms floating in nothingness, tumble down staircases that lead only back to where they began. The castle itself becomes Muzan's ally, disorienting intruders until they are swallowed whole. And yet, within this nightmare, sparks of humanity burn brighter. A slayer draws a breath, and suddenly flame roars against the twisting dark. Another swings, and water flows upward, defying gravity. The castle cannot suppress the imagery of breathing styles. It becomes the stage on which their beauty shines most vividly. Each strike of steel imposes order upon chaos, however briefly, rewriting Muzan's nightmare with fragments of human defiance. Picture the moment thunder arcs down a sideways staircase, wind splits a hallway into shards of air, and mist drifts across a platform suspended in nothingness. Against the void, these visions are not just techniques but affirmations that even in distorted worlds, humanity brings its own rhythm, its own meaning. Infinity Castle, then, is both terror and testament. It is the place where mortality confronts the illusion of eternity, where every fragile breath is tested against boundless shadow. And though its corridors twist endlessly, the truth within it is simple. The infinite can still tremble before the finite, if that finite burns bright enough. Reflections and eternal questions. As the night deepens, the rhythm of breath slows, and questions rise like whispers from the shadows. The war between slayers and demons is filled with blood and steel, yet beneath every clash lies a silence that asks, why does this world exist as it does? Demons are said to come from Muzan, the first of his kind, cursed by an ancient experiment gone wrong. But is Muzan truly the beginning, or merely a vessel for something older? Could demons be born from the fears and desires of humanity itself? The longing to live forever, the hunger to escape death? If so, then slayers are not only fighting monsters, but their own reflection sharpened into fangs. And what of the breathing styles? They are only air-filling mortal lungs, yet they cut through immortality, even through the fabric of Infinity Castle itself. How can something as fragile as breath carve into the void? Perhaps breath is more than air. Perhaps it is life distilled, a rhythm that echoes the heartbeat of the universe. Each inhale may carry the memory of generations, each exhale the will to defy oblivion. Imagine for a moment a day when the sun itself fails to rise. The lamps of Tokyo flicker, the forges of the swordsmith village grow cold, and even the wisteria withers without light. The world would fall into shadow, endless and consuming, until every horizon became another corridor of Infinity Castle. Could humanity still fight, then, with no dawn to guide them? Or would breath alone be enough to keep the dark at bay? These questions have no answer, yet they are the heart of the meditation. For in uncertainty lies meaning. Humanity's strength is not in having eternal truths, but in breathing despite doubt, fighting despite despair, and hoping despite night. In the stillness, one hears not only the clash of swords, but the murmur of something deeper, a dialogue between mortality and eternity, fragility and power. The world of Kimetsu no Yaiba leaves us not with solutions, but with haunting questions that linger like echoes long after the battle ends. Whisper of the night. The city sleeps, its lamps flickering faintly, unaware of the eyes watching from above. In the forest, hammers fall upon steel, sparks glowing like stars among the wisteria, and far away, corridors shift endlessly, the Infinity Castle swallowing silence with every turn. These places exist side by side, Tokyo's restless streets, the hidden village of fire and flowers, the fortress of shadows without end. Together, they weave a world where fragility and eternity face one another in endless tension. And in this stillness, questions remain. Are demons born from Muzan's curse, or from the desires of every human heart? Can breath alone, so fleeting, so fragile, truly cut through the void? If the sun itself were to vanish, would there still be light, or would all that remains become one infinite castle of night? No voice answers, only the faint hum of the city, the soft rustle of blossoms, the hollow echo of shifting halls. Yet perhaps that is enough. Perhaps the silence itself is the reply, that meaning lies not in certainty, but in the act of breathing, of fighting, of enduring. And as the horizon stirs with the first pale glow of dawn, the night releases its whisper. Fragile though we are never without light. Perhaps the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba is not just a story. It is a reminder that humanity forever stands between two shores, light and darkness, tradition and change, death and continuation. The only certainty is this: we must choose how to live and how to fight. Join me again for our next journey, where we'll step into other realms, worlds where myth and reality intertwine. Until then, breathe deeply, rest well, and let the night carry you.